WBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Mahomes now 17-3 after a loss. It's one thing about the Chiefs. I mean, it's very rare where they lose a couple games in a row.
Mike Danger.
Just like you've been able to say something's off with the Buffalo Bills this year, you could certainly say the same for Kansas City. They don't look like the same team that won the Super Bowl. I mean, the Chiefs actually losing at Lambeau makes me feel worse about this weekend's outcome for the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
He's Italian, Gino.
I want to get there to say, Bills fans, don't worry, everything's going to be fine.
I'm not there.
Congratulate Deion Dawkins.
Jim Harbaugh would fit Buffalo perfectly. Buffalo would be incredible.
Bengals over the Jaguars in overtime, 34-31.
Cincinnati we don't like, but we like Buffalo.
Well, let's not forget, he's Jake Browning.
Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury.
High right ankle injury, a sprain.
Tage Thompson!
I don't mean go with the stars, you know. I'm not Danger Battaglia.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Good afternoon. Welcome on into the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free-to-download Odyssey app. Maybe we're on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we can't forget about the video stream. You can watch the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. Good afternoon to you, Gene Battaglia.
How are you, buddy? How'd you like the party there? I had
A little holiday party, yeah. Holiday party where Gene pulls the ultimate Houdini. Like, he's there, he's not there. He's there, he's not there.
I had to go say hello to a listener that's Jeff at Nashville. Loves our show.
Jeff at Nashville.
Jeff Day, great person, and he loved your rant, by the way, on McDermott after the show, man. So, but you got to work around your client schedule. So that was, yes, I prefer to call it the Irish goodbye.
You said Jeff loved my rant?
Yes.
Jeff is my new best friend. Love you, Jeff. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. We had our little holiday staff holiday get-together this afternoon at a secret location, and Gino and I were there, and we didn't truth be told, full disclosure, we haven't talked this afternoon. This is our first interaction
this is not the
this
way
afternoon.
It's supposed to be.
It's
right?
not supposed to
no.
go this way, but because of unforeseen circumstances, mainly a holiday party in the middle of the day, Gino and I are set for 3 hours of fantastic sports talk, and we're going to do our best to bring it, but we know that our guests will always bring it on a Tuesday afternoon.
Of course. Seth Appert will join us in the 4 o'clock hour. This isn't your typical Sabres Tuesday. I mean, there's a lot going up in Buffalo, and some of it good. Tage Thompson's back. That's cool. Devin Levi had to go back up as UPL is ill, so is this short term, I would assume, but we'll get the thoughts of Seth Appert as the Amherst split up in Belleville, and now it's a weird schedule here. Like, you only have one game this weekend, and it's Friday night at home against Charlotte. So, and we're expecting Devin Levi to be in net, you'd hope. So we'll be talking to Seth Appert coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
And later on this hour, we'll talk some Buffalo Bills with Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard covering the team.
Yeah, so today, Tuesday, quiet day. Tomorrow's the day when all the players are back on the field, but we'll start looking ahead to Kansas City. We'll get Matt's perspective because we haven't talked to him after the news surrounding Von Miller broke, where that story may or may not go. We'll talk to Matt Perino from the Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post-Standard as well. That's coming up here shortly.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We have time for your calls throughout the course of the afternoon. You can join us anytime on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN 585 866-4326.
Yeah, as Monday Night Football, I didn't like the result there, Danger. I don't need the Bengals farting around. That was one team I'm thinking, Jacksonville, okay, you run away, you take the division, and just put Cincinnati out of their misery, but here the Bengals are, and it was a fun game last night. I was not expecting that to be a fun game.
Yeah, what did we learn from the game last night? I think what we learned last night more than anything is that the Cincinnati Bengals can win with Jake Browning.
Not because of.
Win with Jake Browning. That's a nice win for them on the road against a team. I don't know if you heard this or not at all yesterday during Monday Night Football, but had the Jags won last night, they would have been the 1 seed in the AFC. I maybe mentioned it a dozen or so times last night during the broadcast, but they didn't get it done. the Bengals can win with Jake Browning. You said it. Not because of Jake Browning. His stat line was impressive. And he looked poised. He looked dialed in. I'm not going to say that the Bengals are going to win games because of Jake Browning.
But, and I'll say this about their coach, where some of it just didn't work, okay? You're going for it on fourth down. You didn't get it. Going for it on another, if you try a long field goal off the crossbar.
Dude.
Trick plays that didn't work.
Oh, yeah. What was that Tyler Boyd play? Stupid, dumb, getting too cute, arrogant head coaching. Just bad. Just really, really bad.
Yes, but I'll say this. It's his message to the team is like, we got to let it all hang out, guys. We have to go get this one. We're going to do everything we can tonight.
I'll be critical 1 minute of the stupid trick play that cost them an interception, but I will also view Zach Taylor through a lens that I wish I could view Sean McDermott through.
Yes.
At the end of that game, with over 20 seconds to go and one timeout, the Bengals weren't kneeling. They weren't taking a knee. They weren't waving a white flag. They were playing to win, not to tie. They were playing to win.
With their backup quarterback.
With their backup quarterback. Not with Josh Allen. With their backup quarterback. Sean McDermott. Take notes. That is how you do it. You coward. You don't take a knee with 20 seconds and a timeout when your quarterback is Josh Allen. Hell, Zach Taylor is trying to win a football game with Jake freaking Browning and over 20 seconds to go. That's how it's done. That's how it should be in the NFL. I love it. I love that. They deserve that win.
Happy holidays to you.
I mean, Brasky put it out there on Twitter last night. And when I saw it, I was thinking the exact same thing. The cowardice of Sean McDermott. 20 seconds, one timeout, on the road, Josh Allen is your quarterback. Take a knee. I can't forgive that. That is an unforgivable sin. Especially when 1 week later, you're seeing a rival, a conference rival, with their backup quarterback, with some spare who's bounced around the league. And just over 20 seconds, one timeout, we're going to try and win this game. God bless them.
Against a team that was in position for the number one seed. So don't tell me it was big. Well, you're in Philadelphia. They're really good. So's Jacksonville. So that's where, trick plays, that didn't work, but it's the attitude. It's the attitude adjustment I want to see in Buffalo.
It's balls!
Have some.
It's balls! Just to be blunt, it is balls.
Go into Arrowhead and knock some heads around.
It's balls.
Yes.
I hate to be crass. I hate to be blunt. That's what has been missing this year. It's balls. Have some. Zach Taylor has more than you do with his backup quarterback. And one timeout, he's trying to win a football game. He's not taking a knee. He's not playing for a tie. He's not playing it conservative. Let's throw it out there. You know what his limitations are. Look, you watched that game. You saw how that game started. Jake Browning wasn't throwing the ball down the field. Everything was short. Everything was off to the side. Everything was quick to chase, get the ball in the hands of your playmaker. It was conservative. But you gain some trust. You let him see the field, gain some confidence, and the next thing you know, this kid's playing a pretty good game. This kid could win us this game. Now, I tend to believe that the playmakers, the guys like Mixon, the guys like Chase, won that game for Cincinnati more than Browning did. His stats were nice, but it was just unbelievable. It was real to see. It was a real comparison to see a coach who's gotten his team to the Super Bowl, by the way, not hold back with one timeout and just over 20 seconds and say, yeah, let's go for the win. Let's go for it. Coward. We'll hear from the Buffalo Bills tomorrow.
You'd love to ask McDermott that question.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? What are you going to get out of him?
No, tomorrow
What are you going to get out of him?
Tomorrow we're going to get so much coach speak. I don't know if we get any lies per se because everything's just kind of down and out and whatever at this point.
You got to get it. This is one you have to have. And look, the Lawrence injury, nobody wants to see a star quarterback missed time. When Lawrence left the field, it's like, oh God, another starting quarterback. Now it appears to be high ankle sprain, which Lawrence hasn't missed a game since he was drafted. Mm-hmm. You could probably play through that, but how effective is he going to be? How much is it going to impede him in his progress? They have the Browns this weekend. I don't know that Lawrence misses any time, which would be crazy because the way it looked last night, it's like, oh boy, Lawrence's season looks like it's over. Can you, as the Bills, capitalize on the rest of the conference right now that is just limping along? Limping along,
but here are the Bengals. They're not dead.
No.
Broncos still farting around. Houston's in a better position than you. Well, that being said, if you take care of your own business, if the Bills win, true or false, Danger, if the Bills win 4 or 5, they're in the postseason. I say that's true.
Yeah. So, 4 and 5 gets you to 10 and
10 and 7 in the farting around AFC in the inferior conference.
10 and 7 may not be enough, but yeah, anything less than 10 and 7 ain't going to get it done.
10 and 7, but if the one loss is to Dallas, because that's an NFC. If you get the 4 AFC wins, I think you're okay. So what's the importance this week of the Bills and Chiefs? And talking to Jay Binkley yesterday, damn Binkley. Like his words rattling around my head, thinking, well, at least the Chiefs, yeah, they'll win the division, but they got to go on the road. It's like, no, fellas. He's citing recent history of the Chiefs in the month of December and still saying that they have a chance for the 1 seed. And then you look at the Chiefs' schedule after Buffalo and you look at Jacksonville stubbing their toe.
Kansas City,
they're going to end up the 1.
They could be the 1. They could still be the 1. Baltimore could be the 1, but I don't have any faith that Baltimore is going to, close out the season. They got a tough schedule. Baltimore's got a tough schedule.
I don't have any faith in Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson, playoff Lamar. Sorry.
Well, I think we both had Baltimore winning the Super Bowl in our preseason predictions.
We did, but not having Mark Andrews now.
I don't feel bad about that pick. I still feel pretty good about that pick. I'm not giving up on
I remember
Baltimore.
how mad you were at me because, like, who are you picking? I'm picking Baltimore. It's my pick.
Damn you. Oh. We have the same pick for the Super Bowl before the season starts. Last night was interesting. Last night in a game on a Monday night that you thought, Cincinnati's, they're 2-score underdogs, no chance with the backup quarterback. Let's write them off. Yeah, to see Cincinnati claw and scratch and get that win, that's a little eye-opening, and I think it serves that the Bills, they have to remain at attention here the rest of the season.
Again, do you want another compare coaches? Did you hear Zach Taylor talk about missing his quarterback? No. Did you hear after 12 men on the field, some head coach talking about missing 5 starters on defense? Yes.
Yeah. Doug Peterson had to apologize for a trainer who got on the field when he wasn't supposed to be out there to throw, give some water out to one of the.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, there was they got charged a timeout when they shouldn't have been charged a timeout because somebody in the training staff didn't realize that timeout wasn't called, and they went out on the field and started handing out waters. You know what? Sloppy coaching happens all over the place. I'm less concerned, but more than anything, you're right. It's an attitude. It's you can't stop us. It's realizing that you have a potent weapon behind center and having the faith and the belief in that weapon that when you need him to make a play, he will do it. Now, there have been instances where Josh Allen hasn't made that play. There have been instances where he's fallen on his face, where he's fumbled at the goal line against Minnesota, where he's thrown red zone picks, when he's thrown costly turnovers. So I understand if there's some trepidation to say, but you can't watch a game like last night and say, he believes in Jake Browning enough to go for it at the end of the game, but Sean McDermott doesn't have faith in Josh Allen to go for it at the end of the game. It's an unforgivable sin.
It's a stunning comparison. It really is. And if the Bills miss out by one game, what game are we pointing to? I was thinking about that today. The New England game, we just kind of just blow right past. The Jacksonville-London game. I mean, all these games.
Cincinnati game.
That too.
Another one. Look, man, I'm my feelings on this year's team fairly well documented. Going into the season, I said I would die on a hill that Ken Dorsey is good at his job. Ken Dorsey is going to end up an offensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL next year. We'll see how it goes. I think he will.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think he will. And I will put all of this year's shortcomings on a head coach who lacks balls. Just lack of faith. Too conservative for his own good. And that was just display last night. And when Alex Brasky, one of our favorites, one of our regulars from the Batavia Daily News, put that out there. I mean, I was thinking it. I wasn't engaging on social media, but I was scrolling through my feed and I saw that. I'm like, God, I was thinking the exact same thing. That's what it's like when you have a coach who has confidence in his... And maybe it's as simple as the difference between an offensive-minded head coach and a defensive-minded head coach. Because defensive-minded head coaches secretly hate the offense, right?
Right. Secretly
want to get can't stand the offense, hate the diva wide receivers, hate the quarterback, got to get after him. That's the enemy. Yeah, that's an unforgivable sin from the Philadelphia game. I'm not going to forget that. I can't forget that. And I don't think that there's anything he can do to make me forgive him for not at least giving it a shot with 20 seconds and one timeout. And when you saw that same scenario unfold last night and you see a coach who got his team to the Super Bowl with his backup quarterback in that same situation saying, yeah, we're trying to win a football game here. We're going to take a timeout so that we have enough time. Like, that was the big question, right? Like, everybody's like, why is Cincinnati taking a timeout here? Why wouldn't you let them rush out onto the field and create chaos so that they can miss that field goal? I'm like, no. I see exactly what he's doing. He wants time so that he can try to score points before this game is over. That makes sense to me. Even with a backup quarterback. He was playing great. They won a game with Browning. It stands to be seen whether they can win because of, but they certainly can win with Jake Browning, and that's a problem for the rest of the AFC. Cincinnati's not going to roll over. I don't know if they're a playoff team, but they're going to be a problem.
That's the outcome last night. That's the big picture. I thought that this would be okay. They're done. We don't have to worry about the Bengals. Don't have to worry about any tiebreaker. And now you got to worry about a head-to-head against Cincinnati and a head-to-head against Denver.
Yeah. Ain't going to get easy. We'll have pregame for you starting at noon on Sunday. The Bills traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. It's a big one. Chiefs week. And by the way, Gino and I, to get the weekend started, we're going live.
Friday. Three Heads Brewing, Atlantic Avenue, the neighborhood of the arts. Enjoy some delicious beer with us. We'll have guests on set, and you and I will be hanging out. You know, we get to talk to you during the commercial breaks, but afterward, we'll be sharing a cold one.
Is Trapasso joining us again?
He is.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
We got a little off track with Trapasso last time. We started talking about cold dunking, and we'll try to keep it focused, just football-centric with Trapasso. He and I could probably do an entire hour on biohacking and cold dunking, cold plunging, and doing all the stuff that he does.
And make sure you bring a Santa hat for Mike Danger to wear to.
I'll wear a Santa hat. That's not a challenge. You want me to wear a Santa hat? I'll wear a Santa hat. No problem. I don't know that I would wear the cowboy Santa hat. That's brave. You wore that because one of the listeners, like, cowboy Santa hat? Yeah, but I'm festive. We'll do that.
Would you wear a Met Santa hat?
No. No. Get that thing far away from me. It's cursed. It is absolutely cursed. What else do we got going on around the NFL? Hey, look who's getting another start for the Giants. Hey, it's Tommy Cutlets. He's getting another start. Why? Because he's Italian.
Why? Yes, Tyrod's healthy, the Giants are sticking with DeVito. That's your Monday night game next week. We get to see Green Bay and the Jordan Love story continue as they'll be in the Meadowlands to face the Giants. And today, Dable announcing it's going to be Tommy DeVito getting there. It's a secret tank danger.
Why? Why is DeVito starting? I'll tell you why. Because he's Italian. Hey, Tommy Cutlets. Let's go again in week 14. Taylor's healthy. Doesn't matter. Why? Because it's Tommy DeVito.
How did Syracuse University miss out on this marketing opportunity? Like, knowing, like, our community in Rochester, it should have been Tommy DeVito. Hey, Rochester, it's Tommy DeVito. Come out and see the orange, okay?
We get our guy. Who's our guy? Our regular.
We talking about
Tommy
right?
Plantone.
Oh,
We get Tommy Plantone to voice the spot. Hey, it's me, Tommy Plantone. Come see DeVito play for Syracuse. Why? Because he's Italian.
Maybe if they had name, image, and likeness back then, Danger, could you imagine? Hey, it's Tommy DeVito. The holiday party's coming up at the Tally Ho. I invite you to join me.
See what else they did in New York? They released Matt Barkley. You know why they released Matt Barkley? Because he's not Italian. Tommy DeVito, he's Italian. He gets the start. And in New York with the Jets, it ain't much better. What a disaster.
So Salah and others are saying that's absolutely not true.
Yeah,
Zach Wilson did not. Okay. If it is true, okay, this was the report yesterday. Diane Rossini saying the Jets want to go back to Zach Wilson because they're out of options, but he wasn't comfortable going back in that position, to which you and I both said, if that's true, you got to cut him. What are you doing? You're wasting time.
Cutting him would be like the ultimate admission of incompetence. They can't cut him. He was the number 2 overall pick.
It's over, though. If you have a quarterback, if that's true, like, I don't want to go back in, then you're a coward. Well, they're saying that's not true, this report.
Of course. Well, here's what we do know. Tim Boyle, out. Gone. Tim Boyle era in New York, done. They've waived him. Brett Rippon has been signed off of Seattle's practice squad. Oh. So who's starting? Nobody knows.
Dude, we haven't, because you came back, had the COVID. We didn't talk about the Hail Mary pick 6.
Oh, right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, against the Dolphins?
If there's one, like, it's been bad for the Bills this year, mind you, but, there's another jet play. Like, you have the butt fumble and now the Hail Mary pick 6. When does that happen?
Yeah. We don't know who's starting for the Jets this weekend. And look, the season's over, but it's just kind of, again, funny to think of what could have been versus what was, especially when you consider what week 1 looked like. The week 1 win over Buffalo. Again, another game that if you're the Bills, you're going to just look back at the season and be like, what the F? How? Why? Brutal. Tim Boyle being released by the New York Jets. Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard covering the Buffalo Bills. We'll get his thoughts as the Bills come off their bye week and head to Kansas City for a trip against the Chiefs here this coming weekend. Matt Perino joining us next in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. Surprise your loved ones this holiday season with the gift of self-care by giving them a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte. A gift card allows that special someone to indulge with one of their signature spa treatments, bask in their salon's services, and treat themselves to the many luxurious products in the spa at the Del Monte's boutique. Visit them at the spa at the Del Monte or purchase a gift card instantly at delmontespa.com. Happy holidays from the spa at the Del Monte.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Yeah, of course they're sticking with him on, because he's Italian. We go to Matt Perino. Covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard, NewYorkUpstate.com. Matt, feel like I haven't talked to you in a while. I know you spoke with Gino last week. The Bills coming off their bye. We hear from the team for the first time tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the little bit of respite here during the regular season. Let's start with the big news from last week and how you think the team addresses, if they address at all, the Von Miller situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we're sitting here, 4 or 5 days after, and there hasn't been a significant update, and it's not surprising. I mean, I think everybody, the league, the team, doing their due diligence. So I don't think there's going to be any way around addressing it to a certain degree. I'd imagine he will not be in the building when we show up there tomorrow. So that'll be a topic of conversation when Sean holds his press conference. There's nothing on the books for Brandon Beane, and I would imagine that we won't talk to him until there is some type of resolution, whether it's even Vaughn going on the commissioner's exempt list, some type of update, detail, which is still to come.
All right, so just taking this from the football angle, and if Von Miller does not suit up again for the Buffalo Bills this year, Matt, considering all that's kind of gone on with him on the field, this isn't a loss, correct?
I mean, from a football perspective, it's been a struggle for him. And, Eric Washington, it's weird. Like 2 days before this all happened, I asked him, where's the level of concern with the player at this stage? And he almost didn't answer the question. He just went quickly on the defensive and was like, well, Von's sacrificing to come back, probably shouldn't even be back. And I think that raises the question, in all these kinds of situations, and maybe even goes back to the Tre'Davious White situation last year. I know fans were, a little bit anxious about him getting back and restless, if you will. But we've seen that, if you rush these kinds of things, nothing good happens from that. And at 34 years old, Von Miller's not young. And so he's been back and he's played in 8 games, and we haven't seen much, if any, progress in that time. And I get the fact that he didn't really get a training camp, and that would have probably been helpful. But when the injury happened last year, it happened. So, if this elevates Kingsley Jonathan into a role where he's playing a bit, if it gets AJ Epinesa into a spot where he's playing more snaps, then I think that's probably a good thing based on how things have gone since Von returned.
Every situation is unique, including this one. It feels like there might be a little bit of a pattern of behavior here in Von Miller and his circles, given that this is the second time that something like this has happened. It happened in Denver as well. In your best guess, Matt, you mentioned the commissioner's exempt list. Is that where you potentially see this going? I mean, do you think that this is a paid leave situation for Von Miller if we're not seeing him with the team tomorrow?
Right, and then that's the complicated part about all this. To kind of make any predictions is really difficult because I think the Bills have to do their own due diligence into this whole situation to figure out, what exactly happened, how much of what was reported and was in the affidavit when the arrest happened or when the investigation happened, how much of that is true. And then do you have to make a decision that has nothing to do with football or business or finance? And is that somebody that you want as a part of your organization? I mean, one of the things that Sean and Brandon have done such a good job here, and they've received plenty of credit for it, from me included, is setting the culture. And if you hear Sean talk about it, what that means, he usually mentions the players' families and their ability to be good family men. And, this isn't an example of that. Now, of course, this is allegedly, right? We're dipping our toe into the water of just not knowing, but there was an arrest, and we haven't heard from Bond's camp yet. We haven't heard from the Bills camp yet. It all just looks really bad right now. But if any of that is true, I just have a hard time believing that the Bills will be comfortable with him remaining. So, yeah, we'll see what happens over the next couple of days, and who knows? These things tend to take a lot of time too. That's the other part of this. I remember Ezekiel Elliott a couple years ago and how that kind of went on and on and on. And, Willie Woney, I remember, I think it was the off season. So but turning on ESPN, it felt like that was the daily storyline, like updates to that story and how that thing was transpiring. So, they're all different, and it's just sad.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Last one from us on the Vaughn situation, because let's say he's not available and you've got a decision next year. I'll frame it this way, Matt. The cap next year isn't going to be pretty for the Buffalo Bills, and if you cut Von Miller prior to whatever deadline or whatever ruling, it's even going to get worse here. So how does that kind of complicate things, in your opinion?
Definitely complicates things. And I guess it's just, discussing what you're comfortable with, right? You're running a business, you're running a team, you're in a Super Bowl window, you're trying to win, and that kind of hit for a player that's not on the roster, it will probably hurt. But there's also the other side of things that it's like, okay, sometimes it's addition by subtraction if he was on pace to never being the same player again, from a football perspective. So, if this gives an opportunity to a Kingsley Jonathan or somebody like a rookie next year, and you got to eat that dead cap from a football perspective, that is what it is. It's not an ideal situation. I think when they gave out that deal, when they gave it out, I think they probably thought it was a safe 3-year window. And I'm not even talking about what happened last week in Dallas. I'm just talking about the injury and then the football this year. It just, it hasn't felt like the return on the investment in year 2, but it's hard to foresee that because before the injury last year, he was playing really well.
Matt, I watched last night's game and was a little alarmed that Cincinnati can win games with Jake Browning. But more than anything, I drew a comparison, and the last we saw of the Bills, Sean McDermott was taking a knee with 20 seconds left and one timeout in regulation against the Eagles. Last night we saw Zach Taylor, a coach who's gotten his team to the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback and one timeout in just over 20 seconds, go for the win and not play for a tie. I'm having a real hard time right now with Sean McDermott. This season has been obviously taxing on the team. It's been taxing on a lot of us. Is that an unforgivable sin? Josh Allen is your quarterback.
So I didn't catch the game last night, and I have to go back and watch it. Was it raining?
No.
It wasn't raining.
No.
Okay, so big difference, guys. Make sure that you set that up.
Sorry.
No, I agree. I thought that was an egregious decision when you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, to your point, and you have 20 seconds of time, and we've seen teams do damage, with less time to his own team. And so, I think that this bye week couldn't have come at a better time for, I think, listen, I've been critical of Sean, and I think he deserves a lot of the criticism. He's not the only problem. And there's been some problems on this team that they've tried to figure out over the course of time. The decision to go with an unproven offensive coordinator, for as good as it looked at times, that was a bad organizational move. It turns out, handing the keys over to this high-powered offense to a first-time play caller was a really dangerous game. Now, you might have gotten to the place that you needed to get to anyway. You almost maybe had to go through that because one thing that Ryan and I talk a lot about is if the Bills had hired a brand-new offensive coordinator when Dable left, there's no telling that would have been the perfect fit for Josh Allen schematic-wise. So if they would have had to change the whole offense and come up with a whole new system, maybe that causes some sort of regression in the player, that you're paying $250 million to. Maybe that's not something that you want to do. And now with Brady, it feels like you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting this charismatic, more experienced play caller, and you don't have to change the scheme that much. So maybe, we'll see how this year goes and into next year. But I think Sean needs to take a long look in the mirror over the last 2 weeks and figure out who he wants to be as a head coach, understand what the team that he has and the players that he has, the window that they're in. I mean, listen, guys, going into the season, I thought that, this was a really good AFC, a lot of good contenders, but there's question marks with all of them, including Kansas City. Them the least of all going into the season, but obviously with the way that the season's gone, there's serious questions about them. They've never been more beatable. And so now if you don't even get into the dance and get a chance to try against all of these teams that are dealing with injuries, and I mean, right now the healthiest and most dangerous team is probably Baltimore, and you're a couple of years removed from absolutely clamping down Lamar Jackson. And so I think that to me is the bitter pill to swallow, is it's happening in a year like this when there's so much opportunity. They have to go all in, and I think they can win 5 games in a row. I don't think that is crazy. I am not sold on Dallas. I think that December football is a completely different animal, and going on the road to Highmark Stadium is something. This game this week against the Chiefs is going to be, man, how big is this game going to be? And I think Sean McDermott's good off the bye, and we'll see how much, if we see the aggressive version this week.
Yeah, and in this Chiefs team, they don't look like the Chiefs of years past. And yes, their schedule's soft. They may end up with the 1 seed here, Matt, but what you've seen recently out of Kansas City, is this a beatable team on the road?
They're a Chris Jones injury away from being in real big trouble. And because I think he makes their defense go, and their defense over the last couple of weeks has actually been the side of the ball that hasn't been all that great after a really just hot start. I mean, they were one of the best defenses in football through 8 games. And so, listen, they still have Patrick Mahomes, and I think Rashee Rice coming on is adding an element to the offense that they've been missing. I think we're seeing what's the word? We're seeing maybe Travis Kelce hitting the next stage of his career. I don't know if he's necessarily the same weapon that he was in years past, and I know people joke about the Taylor Swift stuff. I think it's just a physical thing. He's 33 years old. I think you take enough hits over the years and you become that reliable playmaker over the middle of the field when you're just getting absolutely blown up by linebackers and safeties week in and week out, and that takes a toll. And I don't know, I've watched probably 4 Chiefs games this year, and he does not look like the same explosive player to me. There's not as much run after the catch. There's not as much breaking tackles in the open field. And to me, when they got rid of Tyreek Hill, that to me was why they were comfortable doing it, because they had this superstar phenomenon at tight end that just hasn't looked like that so far. And, when you throw in all of these drops and just poor play at the skill positions elsewhere, it's bad news. Now, they still have a really electric run game. It seems like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting involved in the party the last couple of weeks, the former first-rounder, and then Isaiah Pacheco he's cool, man. He's a cool player to watch. He is always, who's a good example of this from back in the day? I can't think of, the fastest running back when I used to play Madden back in the day, but he had, a 99 speed, and you turned off the setting that, slowed people down and gave them fatigue, and then you just run 99 the whole game long. To me, that's like Pacheco. He never slows down. He's a serious weapon.
So, all that being said, when we look at Kansas City and we look at the Bills and we compare the two, I always go, all right, head coach or coaching, quarterback, overall talent. I give the advantage to Kansas City on all 3, Matt. So help me try and diagnose some areas, some places where the Bills can exploit some weaknesses of the Chiefs, where the Bills can actually get over and potentially win this game. I'm having a real tough time with it.
I think first and foremost, I think you got to create turnovers. And I think, everybody has talked about Josh Allen's turnovers this year. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is right in the mix there with that. I think you got to pressure the quarterback. I think their offensive line, there's ways to generate pressure. They're really good on the interior, but there's opportunities on the edge, especially at right tackle. They're penalized a lot. So I think you have to be super disciplined on the road. You cannot have the kind of penalties that you had 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia on the road and expect to win against the Chiefs. And then I think offensively, you just lean into what you've been doing. I mean, you're averaging 34 points in your last 2 games, and Joe Brady has now had the most time to actually sit and plan that he's had since he took over the job. I mean, talk about crazy couple of weeks. You get 5 days to prepare for a Jets defense that had just embarrassed the Bills game after game. And then you got to turn over and play the defending NFC champs on the road, and you pass both those tests with flying colors, and now you get 14 days to prepare for a defense that seems like it's faltering. Now, you're going to get their best effort. I mean, the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, that is it's about as rivalry a game as you can get outside of the division. And so I think both teams are going to get up to play. And I just think if you're Josh Allen, you got to continue to play the way that you have the last couple of weeks. Take care of the football, implement the running game a little bit, and maybe it ends up looking like it did, I think it was last year, when it was like 24-20. You might just have to make a play late in the game, and your defense is going to have to make a stop. And to me, to your point, that's where I struggle with the most. It's like when the Bills have needed second-half stops in big games this year from their defense, which obviously is banged up. I mean, they're missing some guys, but they just haven't gotten them, especially against the Eagles. I mean, people bring up those two possessions where they forced a punt and then they forced a field goal, which were great, but the three before that, they allowed touchdowns. And so that's just not going to do it on the road against good teams, against good quarterbacks.
So, Matt, follow me on this one and have a little fun with this. All right, so you are somebody that has covered the NFL. Before that, you worked in the UFC. You've been around stars. Is there anybody that would ever get you starstruck? And then part two of the question, are you going to be kind of circling around the suite level in Kansas City, or maybe catching a glimpse of who's coming out in and out of the Chiefs locker room waiting for Travis Kelce coming up on Sunday?
That's a good question. No, not really. And it sounds so like, oh, yeah, of course, that guy's too cool for school. I don't know. It's just like, you just see behind the curtain for so many folks. I mean, I tell this story all the time. Conor McGregor was one of the most, at the time, and now he's in a different stratosphere now. I was around him in 14, 15, 16 when he was coming up. But even after, like, he won the double title in New York City and he was at the peak of his powers, the dude behind the scenes was the, like, most down-to-earth, like, kind, genuine dude. Like, he treated Dana White the same way he treated, the janitor at Madison Square Garden. I mean, he was a good dude. And so I think when you see all these people all the time that are super, I mean, Josh Allen is on every single commercial during Sunday when you're watching football, right? And I see him around the building all the time, and I interact with him on a weekly basis. And so, yeah, there's not too many. If there's one, maybe, I guess I will out myself and tell this story. So I was a huge WWE fan, like in the late 90s into the early 2000s. When John Cena took over, I was out. Like, that was like when I kind of bounced out. But The Rock was my guy. Like, that, through thick and thin, like, that was my guy. Like, I was just, whatever it was about him, he just, the charisma, the one-liners, he was great. So he was at a UFC event. I think it was like in 2016, 2017. I worked at the UFC. I had access to all these people all the time. I chickened out. I was too scared to go up and get a picture, say hi. To this day, that's the one person that I think I was a little starstruck with. If I saw him today, though, I think I would just man up and do it.
Are you going for the picture, or are you just going for a conversation? Because I always feel like I can have a conversation with anybody, but I feel like I'm crossing some sort of line if I say, hey, Rock, can we get a selfie? I don't know that's where, I don't know that I would go that far.
I would, for that. Like, if it's for like somebody that you really like would genuinely be starstruck over, like they've had that kind of impact on you, like you'd want to probably commemorate it. Of course, I want the conversation, right? Just to shake his hand and meet him, like that would be cool. Somebody else like that, I know a lot of people have. Derek Jeter growing up, like that, a cool moment. My cousin who went to Lemoyne, he actually is from Brockport. Andy Carino, yeah. The Bigs for Oakland and San Diego, and they played the Yankees in Jeter's last year, and he got to second base. And he had like our whole childhood, like Jeter jerseys, posters, like he played shortstop, like it was his idol. And all of us, like we loved him. Our family were Yankees fans, and he's just there. And we got picture and video of him just like shooting the breeze with Derek Jeter at second base in the Bigs. It was one of the coolest moments ever. So things like that, like those kinds of folks. I mean, I'd want a picture, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so like if you see like Taylor Swift in Kansas City on Sunday, that's no big deal.
It's a zero.
It's a zero for you.
It's a zero, but I will drop a little karaoke maybe. Like I know a couple songs. Like we can get it popping. Like no, I don't know what's the one, 1989? Is that what it's called?
I think that's one of her albums. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So I know an album title.
But Matt, we joke, but is there something to that? Is there a distraction factor? Do the rest of the guys in the locker room, when you know that that's happening, and look, the Bills aren't immune from this either. I mean, we're not going to get into the detailed personal lives of every player on every team, but there are those kind of distractions that get a side eye from time to time, do they not?
I mean, this thing is definitely at a different level. Like, there's not many of these kinds of situations where every single move, like where they go, where they're at, when she's coming to the game, like it's all chronicled and it's all just spewed across social media. It's like all these players are on social media. They see it. They're probably in their lockers before the game watching. There's probably more coverage of Taylor Swift's entrance into Arrowhead than there is the pregame football talk. So it's like there's got to be a layer of just weird around it because it's so out of the ordinary. But I think once you get into the games and from a preparation standpoint, I can't imagine that it factors into that part of it. To be honest with you, with the Chiefs, I just think that they've lived in this world where they just relied on Patrick Mahomes all these years and it's worked. But it's starting to just, there isn't as much reliability around him. And now with Kelsey taking a step back, it hasn't looked the same offensively.
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, Shout Podcast. When's the next Shout Podcast drop, Matt? And what can we look forward to reading to here?
The next one is Wednesday night, the Staples Show. We'll have tons of coverage. We get McDermott tomorrow and Friday. We'll be back in the building. We'll get players and reaction to everything and thoughts and ideas about how the Bills are going to go on the road and win a must-win one against their rival.
Keep it up, bud. Appreciate the time. Let's do it again next week.
Sounds good, boys. Take care.
Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard covering the Buffalo Bills, the Shout Podcast as well. Matt joins us every Tuesday afternoon here in the Sports Bar to talk Bills.
I wasn't going to bring up your Taylor Swift story, but
it's too long to share on the air. I don't know that I should share it on the air because she has ears everywhere.
That's right.
I don't want to be
It's a three-head story. I'm telling this. It's not that there is a story there, but I don't want to get you in trouble. So
I don't know. I mean, what's the statute of limitations? At what point do we just recognize that she's the devil and it doesn't really matter what I say? Everybody just realizes, oh, she's the problem. She even says it in her song, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." She is the problem. She is a problem. A massive, massive problem. Almost ruined me. But I'm standing. I'm still here.
That is a true story. Or people wanted Mike Danger fired, but you're still here.
I'm still here.
You're still here.
I'm like the Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm not going.
I'm not going anywhere. We'll get to Amerks head coach Seth Appert in about a half an hour or so. We'll get a little preview of this weekend's action. Lots of action around the Amerks and the Sabres. The Sabres taking the ice tonight, and we'll get to that and more next. We have time for your calls if you want to join us at 866-4FAN. And we have some takes on tap next in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, I got an NBA take, and I think there's two different sets of people when it comes to the NBA, because the in-season tournament, I don't get it, but a lot of people do, and I think it's kind of interesting, and I'm not going to dump on the NBA here. Just because I don't get it, I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing, and I will explain. Also got to take on the latest on Shohei. Maybe finally baseball's starting to realize, hey, it might actually be good if we kind of make sure some news kind of gets out there. I'm going to tell you what.
Really? You want to stay in the news cycle?
Yeah,
Shocking.
Yeah. Bob Nightingale's reporting which team is out here, so we'll pass along the latest.
All right, I'm going to give you 8 quarterbacks, Gino. 8, and I want you to rank them. They are Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, and Tua. 8 quarterbacks.
Hey,
just want you to rank them. I think it's a fun exercise.
Just based on I come up with the criteria then?
No, just rank them however you want to rank them.
Okay.
Best to worst.
Okay.
Those 8.
Okay.
Geno, Hurts, Love, Murray, Purdy, Russ, Stafford, and Tua.
Like guys I want on my team now or guys I want to build around? Because Russell Wilson is not a guy I want to build around, but...
You just rank them right now.
Right now.
Right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Where they are right now. Because when you do the exercise, there's a couple of names that kind of like, whoa. Whoa. At least for me. I'm wondering if it's the same for you. We'll get into that and more next. And Seth Appert will be joining us here right around 4:25. We'll talk some Amherst hockey in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. Rochester. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook. They're the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, if you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. You've got a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, FanDuel.com/Mike, and kick off the NFL season. Join me this NFL season on FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the insight.
Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo Sabres look to break their 3-game losing streak tonight as they're taking on Detroit. Tage Thompson returning to the lineup ahead of schedule. First time he'll be playing since November the 17th. Isaac Rosane on the game plan tonight.
Yeah, just to get pucks to the net, and then you can use the back of the net after that, I think. You need first to get pucks and bodies to the net and create offense from there, and then you can kind of use the back of the net more to create offensive zone times and so on. So, yeah.
It'll be Eric Comrie in goal tonight. UPL is under the weather. Devin Levi has been recalled from the Amerks. We'll talk to Amerks head coach Seth Appert coming up later this hour. Syracuse basketball in action tonight at the Dome against Cornell. The New York Giants are sticking with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Mahomes now 17-3 after a loss. It's one thing about the Chiefs. I mean, it's very rare where they lose a couple games in a row.
Mike Danger.
Just like you've been able to say something's off with the Buffalo Bills this year, you could certainly say the same for Kansas City. They don't look like the same team that won the Super Bowl. I mean, the Chiefs actually losing at Lambeau makes me feel worse about this weekend's outcome for the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
He's Italian, Gino.
I want to get there to say, Bills fans, don't worry, everything's going to be fine.
I'm not there.
Congratulate Dion Dawkins.
Jim Harbaugh would fit Buffalo perfectly. Buffalo would be incredible.
Bengals over the Jaguars in overtime, 34-31.
Cincinnati we don't like, but we like Buffalo.
Well, let's not forget, he's Jake Browning.
Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury.
High right ankle injury, a sprain.
Tage Thompson!
I don't mean go with the stars, you know. I'm not Danger and Battaglia.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Gino, it's something I've known for a while, but hearing Isaac Rosane talk about his strategy, the team's strategy, pucks to the net is the NHL equivalent to complimentary football.
Working pucks in deep. That's the other pucks to the net. Like every hockey, just shoot it in the sun.
Just know your cliches.
That's it.
Just hey, Rook, know your cliches.
Honestly, and in the hockey community, they don't call these guys out on that. Like, this is what they've been told since they've been 10 years old. And whenever the microphone, we got to work pucks in deep and,
Get pucks in the net.
Yeah.
Pucks in the net. Get them in deep. Pucks in deep. Bodies in the net. Pucks in the net. Got to get pucks in deep.
Yep. Got a full 60. It's important.
What are we doing? Everything about our livelihood is fraudulent. These guys are giving us the same answers since they're 10 years old. What do you got to do tonight? What's the strategy? Well, we got to get pucks to the net. Okay, F me. Thanks. Why? I could have just stayed home. What? Okay. If you're Paul Hamilton, no wonder Paul Hamilton and these NHL guys are all on edge. Pucks to the net. Thanks. When we get Seth on, can we ask him if it's key that the team gets pucks to the net this weekend?
Well, that's why, like, when I'm talking to these high school coaches, like, okay, give me a key to the game, but
not turnover related.
No, not turnover, not penalties, clean game, not anything you could say about any game that you ever played in your life.
Yeah, we have to limit turnovers. Whew.
Wow.
Thanks. Got to play fundamentally sound. Okay. Complimentary football. Okay. Got to get pucks to the net. Hey, good job, man. Mission accomplished. He sounds like a seasoned vet already.
Who's in hot water here in the sports bar? I'm looking at the AFC playoff picture here, and there's one team that could fall out this week.
No longer farting around?
Well, no, they're in their position right now, but they'll be farting around. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. If the Browns lose to the Rams, and remember, the Rams are right on, they're farting around.
They lost to the Rams.
They did lose to the Rams. I'm sorry. Who's next up on that? So the Browns are at 6-6 here.
Yes.
So right now, they're the ones I have to say, because you've got Houston on the outside on the bubble, you've got Denver on the bubble, and then you have the Buffalo Bills. So it's a crowded AFC playoff picture.
It would be a shame. Perino brought it up last hour. It would be a shame if the Bills weren't able to capitalize this season when you look around the rest of the AFC and see all of these wounded teams. Like you don't have the Browns with their starting quarterback. Lawrence is going to be limited here with this high ankle sprain. I mean, he might still go, but he's not going to be able to go.
Right. So that is the next game. They're playing Jacksonville. You can't lose to either whoever the backup is in Jacksonville. No,
CJ Beathard. I mean, can you win with CJ Beathard? I think not. I think we learned that you can win with Jake Browning. I don't know that you can win with CJ Beathard.
I don't think so. Who's in Hot Water brought to you by Ace Swim and Leisure. They've been serving Rochester area families since 1962. It isn't very often that something comes along as cool and different as the all-new Jacuzzi Swim Spa. It's the right size, it's the right price, it's the pool spa combo that gives you the pro-grade water workout and therapeutic water massage. See for yourself the all-new Jacuzzi Swim Spa at Ace Leisure's Chilai Avenue store today or aceswim.com.
All right, we'll get to Amerks head coach Seth Appert here in about 15 minutes or so. Look ahead to this week's action and plenty of action, not just around the Amerks, but around the Sabres take the ice tonight. Before we get to that, I'll drink to that here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, as Danger, if there's one thing that kind of separates our show maybe from national shows, I think it's the NBA. Like other shows will talk NBA, but we're trying to deliver on expectation for the Rochester sports fan, which is we're going to talk Bills, we're going to talk local things. So and we like the NBA, but I'm not so passionate about it. And the thing that kind of separates us from those passionate people, I think it's the in-season tournament. Those of us on the outside, it's like, okay, how does this work? I don't like these courts. I don't like the way this looks. What is the point? People, I realize this, that follow the NBA love this.
Yeah.
They love this. Last night, I'm watching guys at Trivia Night with the Celtics on, just glued, and you wouldn't get this for a November game. And what is the idea? Well, it's the bragging rights. It's the prize. It's the idea that the last guy on the bench is going to get an extra $500,000, and that seems to be an incentive, the bonus money for the players. But I want more here as an outside fan. What if it's actually a golden ticket? The team that wins automatically gets into the postseason. And if you're already in the postseason anyways, well, this is going to improve your season. I give the NBA credit for this. Because, we live in a society, and I'm like this too. I don't like change. I like things the way they are. I like what I know, and I know what I like. No, I give the NBA credit for at least trying something new.
I give them a lot of credit. I think it's been great. I think it's been fun. It's been entertaining. It's a fun, different talking point. It gives fans something else to root for. You mentioned those Celtics fans. They're probably pissed off. I know the Celtics were pissed off. They wanted to win that game. And they get bounced.
Yeah, the crappy Pacers.
By the Pacers, right. You get the Pelicans advancing over the Kings. It does matter to these players. And I think that trickles down and the fans care about it. It is different. I'm not crazy about how the courts look, but I do like that they're playing for something. And I like that they tried something. It's a risk. They tried something different. It feels innovative. And you do get a sense for how it works once they're in it. The group play matters, right? Like you win your group stage games, and if you win those, now you're in the quarterfinal, now you're in the semifinals, and it's almost a shame that it's going to be over here in a blink of an eye. By the end of the week, we'll have all right, we'll know what's going on.
Well, I'm wondering if this was kind of like the test run here. Okay, will people actually be into this? Seems like, you got to kick it up a notch. Do you like my idea at least
I don't know that you need to do that yet. I could see that as like a desperation heave down the road where there's not as much interest. I feel like there's interest. I don't know that there'll be this much interest in the in-season tournament next year. Maybe there'll be more, or maybe it just becomes a gigantic Francesa and nobody really cares.
Oh, who cares?
Oh, we know what it is and nobody cares and it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that the players get an extra $500,000.
Yeah, I think, though, too, I've heard this suggestion. Well, the team that wins gets the number one overall pick. No, then you won't have players playing as hard. Trust me when I tell you that players on a current team don't give a rat's butt about...
Now, the $500,000 is nice.
Yeah, that's
You could jack it up even a little bit more if you wanted to, if you're the NBA, and really get these guys, to know that it matters, to see the Celtics upset at losing last night, that, to me, is all I need to see. All right, they care. They care, and for all the load management talk around the NBA and all of the stars don't care and they play when they want to play and blah blah blah. No, this matters, and it's been a fun little experiment. I kind of dig it. I appreciate them trying something new. They certainly didn't have to do it, but they did, and I think it's been a success.
I think also, too, myself, I'm a little late to the party on this, but I think where we sit here in our town, we only have so much bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
So that's also part of it.
Yeah, look, I think if you listen to this show, you're probably, if you're like us, you like the NBA, but it's not your go-to. It's not your, I have to watch the NBA tonight. Like if you had your choice between the Sabres and the NBA, you're probably going to lean more towards the Sabres because they're our team. We don't have an NBA team. The Knicks, the Raptors.
No, I would say, to me, I think Syracuse is like a half step below Syracuse basketball.
All right.
So I'm not, the Sabres is like, I'd say your Buffalo Bills NFL first, right? And then your favorite teams, whether that's the Yankees, the Sabres, Syracuse after that. Mm-hmm. Are you as passionate enough about the Celtics or the Knicks? That's where I think that's the next tier below that.
And the other part about the NBA that we've discussed is it is a player-centric league. You become fans more so of the player necessarily than you do of the team. You could be a Luka fan and not care about the Mavericks. You just want to see Luka or KD or LeBron. But more than anything, let's just appreciate what this is. I don't know that LeBron's going to be playing in many more in-season tournaments. So can we appreciate tonight LeBron versus KD? Can we appreciate that we may not see LeBron in this setting ever again?
I'd like to see New Orleans knock off LeBron. Would that be okay? Maybe.
I can't get behind Zion, but it's fun. It's an exciting element to the product, and I think the NBA deserves some credit. They've done a good job with it. All right, I saw this debate on my feed today, and I wanted to bring it to the air because I think it's a fun exercise, an interesting exercise, and I think if you go through the exercise the way I did, the way Gino did, you could see a wide variety of results. Rank the following quarterbacks: Geno Smith of the Seahawks, Jalen Hurts of the Eagles, Jordan Love of the Packers, Kyler Murray of the Cardinals, Brock Purdy of the Niners, Russell Wilson of the Broncos, Matt Stafford from the Rams, Tua Tagovailoa from the Dolphins. What do all these quarterbacks have in common? Well, I think you could say a lot of them are kind of like middling quarterbacks. I think there might be like different tiers you could place them in. Like I would certainly put Hurts in a tier by himself, and that's why he's my number one on this list. But I'm curious as to how you rank these quarterbacks.
Okay, and again, I could put him in any category here. So I am going to go dead last. And this guy was in the playoffs last year. I give this quarterback all the credit in the world because sometimes you come in with fanfare and then you flop, and then that's it. And this quarterback kind of reinvented himself, and it took a couple stops along the way. Had to stop as a backup with the Giants. He wasn't going to be a starter in Seattle. I think I give Geno Smith credit for being in the league today, but that being said, I'm putting him 8th.
He's last. Okay,
he's last. I'm putting him 8th. I'm putting Kyler Murray 7th because Kyler Murray, to me, leadership does matter at the quarterback position, and I just don't know if his stature is going to, provide for many years of winning football beyond. So Kyler Murray, I'm going to go 7th. Stafford right now, I would put ahead of him, but how much more can you get out of Matthew Stafford? And he won a Super Bowl, so I'm going to put Matthew Stafford at 6. If this were 2 months ago, I'm putting Jordan Love maybe dead last, but what I've seen here recently, this is now. He's rising. Is that the whole point of the exercise?
Dude,
where do you put Jordan Love?
If you watch Jordan Love film from Sunday night, it's impressive. It's impressive. It's scary impressive.
Yeah, and then you look at their schedule, Giants and Bears and all these crap teams. He's going to be fine. Russell Wilson, this is the tough one. I'm putting him 4th.
Really?
Yeah. He's been okay. And yes, he threw the pick at the end of the game against Houston.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yep.
What else do they have right now in Denver? I think he's actually been coachable this year. Tua, I'm going to put 3rd. Some might put him 1st. He's going to get some MVP run, I suppose. How about you beat a winning team first? And once he does that, we'll revisit that. And then it's the Hurts-Purdy question. And maybe that's also part of this exercise. But because Jalen Hurts has made a Super Bowl and Brock Purdy is yet to one, for now, I'm still going Jalen Hurts 1, Brock Purdy 2.
Yeah, I've got Hurts 1 as well. The only caveat with Hurts is I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if Hurts is hurt. Like I feel like there might be some health concerns with him, but he is my number 1 easily on this list out of these 8 quarterbacks. I got Stafford number 2.
Okay, explain.
Very quietly, he's had a very good season, and it hasn't been like the flashy Matt Stafford, big stats like out of Cooper Kupp, and he's been good all season long and has the Rams now in a position where they could actually sneak in the NFC, and nobody had that going into this season. Quietly, Stafford and quietly McVay have had a really, really, really nice season there in LA. I put Jordan Love 3rd. That's how impressed I am by his recent emergence here. The idea that he did what he did against a Steve Spagnuolo defense in prime time on Sunday night, beating the Chiefs, very impressive to me. Purdy comes after Love. And I put Purdy after Love because I think you see it and I see it. We like Brock Purdy. He could end up being the MVP of the league. But what you see out of Brock Purdy is a quarterback whose head coach knows his limitations. You don't see Purdy. When you see Purdy getting reckless with the ball, it's because he's playing beyond his limitations. He can't make all the throws. He can make certain throws and they could scheme guys open and you could see some magnificent play out of that offense, but it's not necessarily coming at the arm of Brock Purdy. And I think the same could be said for Kyler Murray. So much Kyler Murray, who I've had after Purdy, to me is improv. It's just Kyler Murray can make plays happen when it feels like the play is over and it's not really on script. It's just unscripted chaos, but Murray can still make some plays. So I got Hurts, Stafford, Love, Purdy, Kyler Murray.
I think you've got Love too high. Yes, I hear what you're saying. Good game, but that's 2 games. That's it.
6th, I have Tua.
Come on.
Beat somebody. You said it.
Yeah.
Beat somebody. I can't shake the image of what a good defense, a good team does to a one-read quarterback. Beat somebody. 7th, I have Geno, and I have Russ last. I can't forgive a red zone interception with the game on the line. Get out of here. Yeah, you're right. He's been better this year. He's been coachable this year. A lot of that is Sean Payton, and a lot of that is not Russ. You know, if Russ had his choice, he'd still be trying to win these games all on his own, trying to be Superman out there.
That's right.
Getting killed. Forget it. That guy's a fraud. Forget Russ. He's last.
Broncos country. That's right. Let's go.
You're still 8th, Russ. You're still 8th on the list. What do you think of that?
Let's ride. Let's ride.
Broncos.
Let's ride.
Perfect.
Okay.
One more time. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
What do you have for baseball, Gina, before we get to Seth Apper?
The idea that we have this report from Bob Nightingale reporting the Cubs are out on Shohei, or at least their chances here have been dimmed. Nightingale is saying kind of what we were hearing before, Dodgers and Jays, but Nightingale says there's another team that's still in it, the San Francisco Giants. If that is true, let me just plant my flag here. We're more of an American League town here in Rochester, and chances are you're kind of neutral on Toronto, but it would be great for the sport, great for our proximity. I'm pulling for Ohtani.
Oh, it'd be great. Yeah. I'm with you. When we first learned of that last week when we talked to Jim Riley.
Yeah, that like Toronto was a real player. By the way, there's another report that Ohtani was down in the Jays Florida facility talking to him. So he's met with him.
Great. I'm in. I think that would be, look, selfishly, I want the Cubs, of course. But if the Cubs don't happen because they screw it up or it just doesn't work, yeah, Toronto would be nice. That would be a lot of fun. Can you imagine? I mean, the guy has the star power to be the biggest celebrity, the biggest name in the entire country. Can't really say that about any team that he would sign with in America. But in Canada, he immediately he's up there with Connor McDavid.
I was going to say, is he bigger than McDavid? He's not bigger than McDavid.
He might be bigger than McDavid. Just because he's a global name.
In Toronto, is he bigger than Austin Matthews? Toronto.
I think so. I think he's just because globally He's iconic. His weight goes beyond the town in which he plays for. If he's in America, if he's with the Cubs, you still have other stars in America. He's not the biggest name in American sports. He should be. He's doing things that we've never seen a baseball player do in our lifetime. But he'll always take a backseat to whoever is blowing up in the NFL. In Canada, he's the guy. And yes, hockey is king, and yes, McDavid is the name, right? He's the Ohtani has a different kind of weight. He's in a different stratosphere. I think he would be Canada. He would become Canada. He would become synonymous with the maple leaf and that Canadian flag.
We got Seth Apper coming up, Rochester Americans head coach. Get his thoughts on all this roster movement today up in Buffalo here.
Yeah, a lot going on, and we'll get Coach Appert's take on that. We'll preview Friday's matchup at home against Charlotte. That's coming up next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every
update.
Hockey tonight as the Sabres home against Detroit. Tage Thompson returning to lineup ahead of schedule. First time he'll be in since November the 17th. He's happy to be back.
Probably just trying to, ease back into it, see how the hand feels, and take it maybe a period at a time, go from there. Shooting feels 100% normal. No issues there.
It'll be Eric Comrie in goal tonight for Buffalo. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is under the weather, so Devin Levi has been recalled from the Amherst. We'll talk to Amherst head coach Seth Appert coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Syracuse basketball also in action tonight against Cornell. Last time SU lost to the Big Red, 1968. Buffalo Bills are off today. They resume practice tomorrow getting ready for Kansas City. New York Giants announcing they are sticking with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, it's great to be back with the guys out there. A lot of one-on-one skates for me recently, so nice to be out with the boys. I think I've handled it pretty good. It's obviously been a challenge, I'd say. Long injury, coming up on 6 months, so it's tough not being in there, and I think just having patience and trying to get myself back to 100%. Yeah, I think so. That's the original date I had in mind, but we'll just take it week by week here and see how I feel in practices as I go in December.
There's a name that Amherst fans are familiar with, Jack Quinn, who's working on his way back to the Buffalo Sabres. We welcome in Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert for his weekly visit here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Seth, thanks for making time for us this afternoon and every Tuesday afternoon. How was this morning's skate with the team?
The practice is good. Thanks for having me on. Practice was very good today. We did a lot of competing small ice games. It's a strange 2-week stretch where we don't play Wednesday. So it's 3 to 4 practices a week, which is a lot. So we felt today needed to be fast and competitive and more game-like in orientation, and it was good practice.
Seth, I think anytime as a fan, maybe you're thinking, hey, if you can get half the points when you go on the road, that's not a bad thing. But I'm sure you always want more there. How would you assess the weekend that you had up in Belleville getting one of the two?
Yeah, I think when splitting the road, you take it, but when you win the first one, you want the second. And we did a lot of good things in the second game in the first 35 minutes. Probably should have been up 2 or 3-0. Missed a few chances. Their goalie made a few good saves, and then they got a power play goal, and now it's a close game. So you would have preferred to get both. It's a hard building to play in. They're a nasty physical team. They have a great decor. It was 2 hard-fought games. We were better defensively, which we need to be long term, and so there were some good signs from a defensive standpoint. And there were some things we still need to clean up, obviously, at this time of the year, but there were some good signs that way.
Seth, we saw Devin Levi make his debut over the weekend. Of course, he gets called up today with UPL under the weather. I'm curious, not so much about his play on the ice. We know what he did on the ice, but I'm curious as to Devin Levi, the man. It's been a wild 12 months for him. I mean, you think about this time last year, he was still playing college. What in your time with him, what kind of a guy is Devin Levi?
It's funny. He's I haven't spent a ton of time with him, but initial impressions are very driven, very competitive, extremely hard worker, very locked in on the ice, but still is a young kid off the ice, and not in a bad way. He's still young. He's a first-year pro. He's 21 years old. So he's got a good, young, youthful energy about him. Off the ice, but on the ice, he's all business.
I'm happy, I guess, Kulik is here, Seth. Let me see if I have this right. Kulik is here, Rosane up in Buffalo. I guess, what is it about Kulik that, you would think with his production, at least what we see on the ice with the points and everything, that he would get more of a look up in Buffalo, but what's your message to Kulik at this point?
Well, I mean, Rosane had more points than him when they both got called up, so I think Rosane gets overlooked. Kulik is excellent, and he's going to play in the NHL for a long time. I've said for most of the last 2 years now, Rosane's game gets overlooked. Kulik's is more in your face. It's more powerful. It's more explosive. He scores more goals. Rosie's heavier on assists, although he's scoring at a good clip as well. So they're both excellent young players. They both improved their games immensely. I mean, they were nowhere near being go-to players in the American Hockey League 12 months ago. And they improved throughout last year, where the end of the year they were helping us win, and the playoffs they helped us win a lot. So it's a real credit to the two of them. Sometimes it's positional need as well. Rosie's a little more comfortable on the wing. There's Rosie's probably a little ahead of Cooley as a penalty killer right now. So if you need some penalty kill help, you can do that. There's a lot of things that go into it. At the end of the day, they're both going to get a ton of looks, and they're both going to be career NHL players.
Yeah, I was going to ask about just the two-way elements of their games. That one maybe plays a little bit better defensively than the other, and we know how important that is when you take that step up to the next level. Both of them have shown that they can do that at the AHL level. What's different about that when you take that step up to the NHL level? And do your eyes just get so wide that you just want to make those flashy offensive plays that you learned how to make playing at the AHL level?
Well, I think that their defensive games have both improved a lot to where they're solid defensive players. They're not elite defensive players yet. That's something they need to grow into, because you need to be able to be 200 feet. And the Sabres have some pretty high-end guys, so you're probably not stealing Tage Thompson's job or Alex Tuck's job, and maybe Peterka and Quinn's jobs either, right? And so, now you're falling into second line, second, third line, whatever that is, and that's something I preach to our guys all the time. Like, you need to be a good defensive player, no matter how good offensively you are. Even the best offensive players, unless they're good defensively, they don't help their team win very much. So these guys have improved defensively a ton. They're not ready yet to be elite defensive players in the NHL. In the NHL, you make a mistake on a turnover or an assignment, and it ends up in the back of your net more often than not. In the American League, maybe you get away with some of those. So, but their defensive games are improving. They're better checkers than they were a year ago, and they're both going to be very capable defensive players in the National Hockey League.
Seth, you brought it up, how this schedule is just really light right now. You get the 2 games, then nothing until Friday, and then that's it. Nothing Saturday or Sunday. So do you coach this game any differently, knowing like, hey, guys, we're going to be all on E here. This is the only thing we have here this weekend. We need the 2 points against Charlotte.
Yeah, you do coach a little differently. It's, we've talked about already. It's a cliche, but a little bit of his Game 7 mentality. We have nothing to save for. It's not a 3 and 4. It's not a back-to-back. So if the guys that are going to get more ice time, the defensemen, maybe some guys are at 25, 26, 27 minutes instead of at 20 to 22, because there's some rest coming on the back end of it. So, you're not doing it at the expense of playing prospects and making sure guys get opportunities and their minutes they need to continue to develop. But yes, you do coach a little bit differently in a one-gamer. 2 weeks in a row of it, I don't love. Last week was great. Get a little reset, have some meetings, things of that nature. I'd probably prefer that we're playing tomorrow night, but I don't control the schedule, so I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it.
Seth, what do you say to the locker room on a night where the puck just isn't going in? I think back to a Sabres game. I think it was last week against the Blues, and it like there are stretches of the game where they're just outplaying them badly and they're out shooting them, and it feels there's some lapses certainly, but there are so many opportunities, and it's that puck luck, right? It just doesn't feel like it's going to the back. Now, what do you say to a discouraged player who knows that there have been plenty of opportunities, but they just can't bury it, they can't close?
A line I usually use is don't get bored playing the right way. And it's easy to get bored playing the right way when you're not getting rewarded. If pucks aren't going in, or if you haven't scored yet, or you're losing. But this game has a funny way of rewarding teams and individual players that continue to play the right way. And everybody's right way is a little bit different. You have a right way collectively as a team, and then you have the right way for each individual player based on their skills and the things that they're very good at. So, but I do say, I remind the guys all the time, don't get bored playing the right way. You might not get rewarded that particular night, But over the course of 10 games, if you play the right way individually and collectively, usually you're on the right side of the scoreboard at the end of those 10 games.
Seth Appeter is our guest as the Amerks will be home against Charlotte coming up Friday night. Seth, we just talked about how the top end players your top lines may see more time coming up, but this is a time where the depth in the organization is being tested a little bit. So for fans that are heading on out, who are some of these guys that you would like us to spotlight here that maybe have come up from Jacksonville or maybe we're just not familiar with? Some of the guys that will be seeing more time here as some of these guys we hope are sticking up in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Graham Slaggert had a big goal for us to help us win that game on Friday. Damian Giroux's contributed in the score sheet quite a bit here in recent times. Justin Richards is playing better and better. Really seeing some real strong play from the line of Kozak, Neuchev, and Kisakov. Not all of it's translating into goals yet, but they were all over it offensively last game, which is impressive because Belleville's a physical team, and that's a smaller line with the exception of Kozak. Neuchev and Kisakov are young. It's going to take some time for the offense to come, but we're seeing real good glimpses of it, and you need that. It can't just be Mersch and Murray and Jobst and Kulik and Weisbach and Rusek. You need depth of scoring, just like the Sabres needed up top. It's great that Rosie and Byro and those guys are in there, and that they need to also contribute and chip in some goals and some secondary offense to help them win up top as well.
Seth, when you see a team, kind of stuck in a stretch of mediocrity and you're trying to pull them out of that stretch and you have your messages, you have your themes, are you ever worried about your message to the locker room growing stale or falling on deaf ears? How do you shake it up? How do you shake a team that might be, I'm not specifically calling, this isn't specifically about your team. I'm just asking as a coach, what's your tactic for keeping the message fresh and shaking up a stale locker room?
Yeah, it's always a scary point of a season when you're in a lull like that, and there's a real balance between pushing too hard and not pushing hard enough at times. And I have a rule that I only have about 5 real blow-ups in a season where you're peeling the paint off the wall.
Yeah.
If you start going past that, you really risk the opportunity to lose them, for them to start tuning you out. If it's 10, 12 times, if it's every third, fourth game you're coming in and doing that, they're usually going to tune you out. Very once in a while, maybe that's once every 10, 15 games, that might be a thing you can go to. But usually it's more, I think if you treat your players the right way on a daily basis, if they know you're in their corner, not just in the team's corner, not just in the corner of winning, but if they really know you're in their corner, you're invested in their personal success, you can have real hard, firm conversations with individual players and with the group about what you're doing, about what we're not doing, about what we're cutting short. But they need to know you're in it with them. The years I've regretted, it's sometimes it's become felt almost like it's players against the coaches. And I think I never regret seasons when you stayed collective and you stayed in the fight together.
Seth, much lighter question, because we were talking about this earlier this hour. Hockey cliches. Do you have a favorite one? Do you have one that you just don't want to hear? Like pucks in deep.
I was going to say, are you part of the development of the guys who, when they do get asked questions about, hey, what's your strategy for tonight's game, that the standard answer is pucks deep, pucks to the net? I mean, is that part of your coaching, part of your tutelage, Seth?
No. I would prefer that we gain the line with entry. But there's a balance to that. It is a cliche. It's the biggest cliche in hockey. The funny part is, it's relatively true.
Of course.
It's funny how that works. Like, I prefer not to dump it in, though. I would prefer to carry it in or make a play behind them with purpose to our own teammates instead of just blindly throwing it away. But the reality is, teams that forecheck really well, stay on top of you, force turnovers and get a lot of pucks into the blue paint usually find success in our sport. So as cliche as it is, there is a lot of truth to that cliche.
Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, always good with his time here on a Tuesday. And what do you do on a Saturday night? Much less a Sunday off, Seth, here.
Yeah, that's unusual. There's no doubt. So don't get to see the wife and daughters as much as I'd like in the season. So I'll take the opportunity to spend some time with the girls.
I love that, man. Enjoy your weekend. Best of luck come Friday night, and we'll catch up again next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
There he is, Amerks head coach Seth Appert joining us in the sports bar. I prefer gaining the line with entry. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Gaining the line with entry. That's good. I just visualize. It's the old Bull Durham thing, right? It's Crash Davis telling Nuke, you got to know your cliches. You need to study them. You need to memorize them. You need to know what they are, and you need to be ready to just roll them out. And I don't think it's any different if you're in hockey. Yeah, we just got to get pucks in the net, get pucks deep, pucks in the net.
I like how you asked Seth the question, but you couldn't have been referred to like another team and another coach down the throughway, right?
No, I didn't ask it's a specific question about another team. I just think, I'm just curious if you're a head coach and you've been in the locker room for an extended amount of time with a lot of the same guys, a lot of the same personalities. What do you do to freshen up your message? What do you do to keep them engaged? What do you do when it appears that they're not hearing what you're asking them to do?
Again, you're referring to Don Granato.
I'm not saying that I'm referring to Don Granato. Don't put words in my mouth. How dare you? Yeah, I mean, look, if I've got Paul Hamilton and we've got Paul Hamilton telling us these guys aren't doing what the coaches are asking them to do. And for whatever reason, we don't understand why. Because when they do it, they win. When they do it, and they're capable of doing it, they win. So what do you do? What do you do if you're in that situation? What do you do if you're Don Granato and you've got a locker room full of guys that you've all come up together, you've all gotten to this point together, and you're not moving forward, you're moving backward? What needs to change? What about your messaging needs to change? And I like Seth's answer. Yeah, you can go in there breathing fire and rip the paint off the wall, but you can't do that every single night because then that becomes stale as well, and now they don't respect you. So can you give them a message in a way that really makes them understand and believe that we're all in this together and this is still all about winning games? I don't know. I mean,
it's why coaching's an art. It really is.
Yeah.
There's no right. There isn't an answer, Danger. It's who you're dealing with. And I don't know. And you don't know. Nobody knows the personalities of Darlene and Thompson and everybody else in that locker room and what would push their buttons and what would get them to listen. You got to coach everybody a little differently. It can't just be one blanket.
But I do think what Seth said, I think holds weight with me at least, is that, hey, be able to have the direct conversations. Be able to have a tough conversation. If it isn't going well, if you're Matthias Samuelsson and turnovers have become a problem, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you need to have that conversation. And I'm sure that they have. Like, hey, bud, can't have this happen anymore. Every time it happens, it costs us. Or we fall into a hole, or we're giving up, like whatever it is, be able to have those tough conversations and not have them fall on deaf ears. And I wonder if the messaging gets stale, if you don't freshen it up, if you don't try new things or have different ways of expressing what you need to get across.
It's also, too, like, what's the easiest way? You lose ice time, and the depth in this organization, while it's much improved, it still isn't quite where it should be.
But now we're doing, that's the Sean McDermott method, right? Like, I'm going to bench you.
No. In hockey, it's a long season. In football, 16 games, you put your best out there every game. Hockey, there's ebbs and flows. You just heard it from Seth Appert. We asked the question, hey, do you coach Friday night differently? Yes, I do, because I can put now lines out there and give them more ice time.
Yeah. Love that conversation. Always get great insight when Seth Appert of the Rochester Americans joins us here in the sports bar. All right, we have happy hour right around the corner. Before we get to that, Gino, who's hot and who's cold in fantasy football, brought to you by our friends from Airquip Heating and Air Conditioning.
Yeah, who's hot? I'm still going with the Dallas Cowboys. Honestly, they are at a clip, and I think this is the game. And knowing what you know about fantasy football and the Philadelphia Eagles defense here, the Cowboys, to me, Cowboy fans, I'm allowing you to kind of be excited about this team. Who's cold in fantasy football? I'm not so sure the Cleveland Browns and Joe Flacco are going to be doing anything, even against Jacksonville coming up this week.
Who's hot and who's cold in fantasy football? Brought to you by Airquip Heating and Air Conditioning. It's fun and challenging to know when to start a player that's heating up or bench one who's cooling off. It's not fun to be too hot or too cold in your home or business. Make the best lineup call you can and call Airquip today. Happy Hour is on the way next in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Last night on Monday Night Football, we saw a team that we had left for dead rise up and do something I don't think any of us really expected they would do. They won with their backup quarterback, and it was in the manner in which they won that game last night that had me kind of interested in comparing their method of winning to the Buffalo Bills' method of winning or losing. We'll do that exercise in comparison with Happy Hour as we recap Monday Night Football between the Bengals and the Jags and what it means for the Bills as they return from their bye week and get back to work tomorrow, facing off against Kansas City. Sunday, pregame, 12 noon here on the Fan Rochester, with kickoff coming up just after 4 o'clock. That's on the way next. Happy Hour and your phone calls at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326 here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers
Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Some Sabres news today is Tage Thompson returning to the lineup for the first time since November 17th. That is ahead of schedule. Eric Comrie in goal tonight. That's because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is under the weather. Devin Levi has been recalled from the Amerks. Isaac Rosén on the game plan tonight.
Yeah, just to get pucks to the net, and then you can use the back of the net after that, I think. You need first to get pucks and bodies to the net and create offense from there, and then you can kind of use the back of the net more to create offensive zone times and so on. So, yeah.
It's a little later game time tonight, 7:30 for the puck drop. The game is on Hulu. Syracuse basketball in action tonight against Cornell. The last time SU lost to the Big Red, 1968. The Giants are sticking with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Mahomes now 17-3 after a loss. It's one thing about the Chiefs. I mean, it's very rare where they lose a couple games in a row.
Mike Danger.
Just like you've been able to say something's off with the Buffalo Bills this year, you could certainly say the same for Kansas City. They don't look like the same team that won the Super Bowl. I mean, the Chiefs actually losing at Lambeau makes me feel worse about this weekend's outcome for the Buffalo Bills.
Gene Battaglia.
He's Italian, Gino.
I want to get there to say, Bills fans, don't worry, everything's going to be fine.
I'm not there.
Congratulate Dion Dawkins.
Jim Harbaugh would fit Buffalo perfectly. Buffalo would be incredible.
Bengals over the Jaguars in overtime, 34-31.
Cincinnati we don't like, but we like Buffalo.
Let's not forget, he's Jake Browning.
Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury.
High right ankle injury, a sprain.
Tage Thompson!
I don't mean go with the stars, you know. I'm not Danger Battaglia.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, so tonight's Sabres ESPN Plus exclusive, right? That's on Hulu, ESPN Plus, not on MSG.
I got to double check that.
I just checked. I'm like, oh,
really?
No, the Knicks. I think the Knicks bumped the Sabres in this instance, and it is an ESPN/Hulu game tonight if you wanted to watch the Sabres take on the Red Wings. I was under the belief as of late last week that this would have been the debut of Patrick Kane with the Red Wings. Not true.
No.
But it will be the return of Tage Thompson, who's back in the lineup. Tage Thompson earlier.
Being able to be out there, I think, the most fun part of being part of a team is competing for each other and battling for the guy next to you. And when you're up top, you want to help the team, and you can't do anything about it. So it's just one of those things where it just kind of sucks watching from up top, but I think it makes you hungrier for when you get back in the lineup. So it's, sometimes it's a good thing.
It's not like Thompson was lighting it up the way he did last year to start this season before he got hurt. It'll be interesting to see if he comes back with that hunger. If missing that time that he missed with this injury gives him a little bit of fuel and he can provide a spark for, let's face it, a team that's been just mediocre at best.
Yeah, it's the offense. Like, that's really what we can kind of point to. People might say the goaltending in St. Louis, okay, maybe the goaltending hasn't been. You've had flashes from UPL, certainly, and Devin Levi, you hope by him taking a half step back, that's going to, propel him into the future here. Let's see what Comrie has tonight. I mean, I'm curious here. Like, somebody we're just kind of writing off here, but this is a winnable game. You're home against Detroit. This is one of those that, all right, who's going to go to the postseason this year? Is it Buffalo? Is it Detroit? This may go a long way to figuring that out.
We welcome you to Happy Hour here in the Sports Bar. We appreciate you listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester sounds the best inside the free-to-download Odyssey app, static-free on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we always appreciate the viewers on YouTube and Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe there if you're watching online. We appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I'm just waving. I'm not waving to you. I'm waving to the camera.
Oh, you're playing up to the camera. I just
you forget it's there.
I forget it's there.
Yeah.
Last night, Monday Night Football, in a game that I think a lot of us went into it thinking, Jacksonville, Cincinnati backup quarterback,
10-point
favorite, Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if you heard this or if you knew this, but if Jacksonville would have won last night's game, they would be right now the top seed in the AFC. Well, that's not how it played out last night in Jacksonville.
Well, to me, it was Zach Taylor saying, all right, we're not going to change things here differently. We have full confidence in you. And go right to the beginning of the game. First drive of the game. 4th and 3 in plus territory with your backup quarterback. And they went for it, and they didn't get it.
They didn't get it.
No.
And early in that game, Jake Browning didn't look like the dude.
No.
Short passes. Very minimal risk.
But you had a coach that had confidence. And coach had said, all right, we're going to pull out all the stops, those trick plays. Okay, the one stupid. All right.
The Boyd play was horrendous. Just absolutely horrendous. And if you lose that game, you can point it to that specific play and be like, what are we thinking? What are we doing? You get a little bit of a reprieve from that play because of the outcome of the game.
But other coaches would have looked at that and said, you know what, this is an offense in Jacksonville that can put up points. We need to limit our opportunities, and we're going to play complementary football, and we're going to go into this. And it's an attitude issue. And I never thought I'd say Zach Taylor's a better coach than Sean McDermott. Well, just put the two side by side, what you saw last night versus what you saw in the last Buffalo Bills game.
I wonder if it's as simple as defensive-minded versus offensive-minded head coach. Because if you're a defensive-minded head coach, your entire life you've been trained to hate offense. The offense is the enemy. You're going after the offense. You don't trust the offense. You want to stop the offense. As the head coach, you have to be above all of that and really always look at what's best for the team. What really crystallized it for me, and I said this before the Bengals game a few weeks ago. Like, look, the Bengals have a better coaching staff. The Bengals have more talent. The Bengals have a better quarterback. And they won that game, right? Last night, it was clear that Zach Taylor is a good NFL head coach. And beyond the idea that he kind of resuscitated Cincinnati, and sure, getting Joe Burrow as your quarterback helps that. But you get that team to the Super Bowl. You beat Kansas City to get there. You win games the way you win games, partially because you've got balls. You've got this aggressive nature early in the game, going for it on 4th and 3 at midfield and not making it, but not giving up or not changing who you are. It turns out Cincinnati, now at 6-6, can win games with their backup quarterback. I'm not going to say they won that game because of Jake Browning, but they won that game with Jake Browning, a journeyman, a guy who's been everywhere, who didn't really have a place. And now, selfishly, I'm like, the Bears should trade for Jake Browning in the offseason. Look at what Jake Browning, it's one of those things where you see enough and you watch him play, and you're like, I don't hate this guy's game. I don't hate how he's playing. I don't hate how this team is playing for him. Now, I think Jamar Chase probably won that game for them. I think the play of your defense, you made the plays that you needed to make, but it was one specific instance in the game, at the end of the game, in the 4th quarter, and you've got just over 20 seconds, and Cincinnati's got one timeout, and you get the ball back.
Well, back it up just a second, though. You could have let Jacksonville run it down.
You're true. Yes. Yeah. So Jacksonville's going in for the tie, right? They're going to kick the game-tying field goal. They don't have any timeouts, and Cincinnati calls timeout. They have 2 timeouts. They call timeout. And I know a lot of people at the moment were like, wait a minute, why are they calling timeout? Why wouldn't you just let the chaotic exchange happen where the field goal team comes out on the field and you see if they can make this kick? And I immediately, when he called that, I'm like, I get what he's doing. He's saving time. He wants to do something with whatever time is left after that field goal attempt. And sure enough, he's got over 20 seconds and 1 timeout to go after the game is tied to say, you know what? We could potentially get the ball 35, 40 yards down the field in less than 20 seconds and kick our own game-winning field goal attempt. Now, it ended up going to overtime, but just the idea that Zach Taylor found himself in a very similar situation to Sean McDermott did against the Eagles. And the two men and how they approached those situations. One with his backup quarterback, 1 timeout, just over 20 seconds, saying, we want to win this game. We're not going to take any. And the other with Josh freaking Allen. Let's take a knee. Let's play for overtime. Let's play for a coin toss, guys. What do you say?
Matt Perino, who if you're around Matt, I love his sense of humor here. And I want to just kind of point out something that he asked us, because he said, hey, I didn't watch the game last night. Was it raining in Jacksonville? Because that was freaking Sean McDermott. We didn't want to go overtime because you know what? It was
weather.
You just had a 59-yard kick against you in weather. It was the same weather. Oh.
It's insane. It's cowardice versus bravado. Look, man, this is the NFL and the alpha wins. You gotta be better than that. And so seeing that, I'm like, oh, well, that kind of explains a lot. If you didn't understand why Cincinnati made it to the Super Bowl that year, why Zach Taylor has gotten what he's gotten, why Lou Anarumo is a guy that's going to be up for head coach. Like, that's a well-coached team. That's a team that doesn't have a ton of talent outside of their receiving core and their quarterback, right? Like, you look around and like, pretty decent defense, but not like star names.
No, their offensive line was tattered last year, and they found a way.
Right. It's this belief of, we're not out of it. We're not giving up. We're going to go for it. Even with Jake Browning. So the Bengals find a way to win with their backup quarterback, an aggressive play calling and just an aggressive nature by their head coach. I just found it interesting. And when one of our regulars, Alex Brasky from the Batavia Daily News, pointed out what Taylor was doing, I was thinking the exact same thing in that moment. Like, yeah, Sean McDermott would never. 26 seconds and one timeout. Let's take a knee and play for overtime. You coward. It's an unforgivable sin. It's going to take me. I mean, the losses this season have been brutal. They've been most of Sean McDermott's losses have been rough, right? There have been some really, really ugly losses that you can put on that resume, but that is an unforgivable sin. Treating Josh Allen as less than a backup quarterback in the NFL when you have that Corvette in the garage and you choose not to take it for a drive, it's an unforgivable sin. I found that outcome last night fascinating. Now, it also is fascinating that Trevor Lawrence left the game, and it appears that it's not a significant injury. That
high ankle it's going to keep the guessing game, at least for this week. And if he's out there against Cleveland, how effective actually will he be?
Yeah, I doubt he's going to be effective. I think if he is out there, he's going to be extremely limited. He's never missed a game since he's been drafted. So he's got kind of like this Iron Man thing going on. But, man, it looked bad. And he was really, really, really favoring that ankle as he was leaving the field last night. But here you go again, another team that the Bills are looking up at that now appear to be vulnerable. Meanwhile, your vulnerabilities are on the defensive side of the ball where you've had some injuries for sure. But are we over these excuses at this point? I mean, we are 12 games into the season. This is what the team is as they head into Kansas City for a Sunday afternoon matchup against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Zach Taylor's talking about his, we have a backup quarterback and using that as an excuse. But Sean McDermott, after 12 men on the field, was quick to point out that, hey, we're down 5 starters on defense.
Yeah.
No Bills news today, which I guess not to be unexpected. The team not practicing, so we'll hear more tomorrow. No updates on Von Miller. We talked to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, earlier today, and he's like us here, kind of danger. We're all kind of like, we're not sure where the story is going to go. It's going to be interesting, but I think Matt kind of agrees with us. Just from if you take the legalities and everything else, just let's talk from the football side. To me, it's a 0. Like, Von Miller not being on the field, I mean, it actually might be a benefit if you give Kingsley Jonathan or maybe A.J. Epinez a little more reps. So you don't feel like you have to go to number 40, who clearly shouldn't have started the season when he did, and up until this point hasn't offered anything.
He's 34, man. He's 34, and it's his second ACL. And there's just so many factors that play into why he has been invisible this season. And I don't know what, I think it was foolish of us to expect or believe that he was going to be physically as capable as even what we saw at the beginning of last year.
Well, you know where we get tricked up on it? Because anybody that goes out to camp. You see these guys, they're sculpted, they're
specimens.
Moving, but when you get to NFL speed, it's a totally different game. Like when they're on the field regular season versus, working out at Fisher here, not the same. And we learned that with Tre'Davious White, and we certainly learned that with Von Miller this year.
Yes. So you have now a situation where I'm sure tomorrow it'll be asked and potentially addressed. What are we doing with Von Miller? What's the latest? And you could probably already telegraph what Sean McDermott's going to say.
We've been in consultation with the league. It's a serious matter. We take all these issues seriously, and we'll have no further comment on this time.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Is he going to practice? Well, we're in communication with the league.
I'm not going to go there, guys. Yeah, I'm not going to go. It'll be McDermott just kind of brushing it off, and unless they have some sort of resolution, which I doubt that they will have, short of anything legal or anything from the police that have come out. There hasn't been anything new.
Which that'll be really uncomfortable if Miller's on the field this week, right? Like CBS, I'm sure the NFL doesn't want this, right?
Yeah, it's not a great look, but it is. Now you do have sort of a pattern of behavior here between Miller and his longtime girlfriend. And this isn't the first time that we've had something like this, allegations pop up like this. Is the first time that there was an arrest involved. But yeah, it forces you to kind of give pause and just kind of wait and see and look to see how this all plays out. I like that Perino did not rule out commissioner's exempt list. If there's a paid leave in Von Miller's future, it is what it is, as they would say. We'll talk more Bills Chiefs throughout the course of the week. And it all comes to a giant crescendo Friday afternoon when we are live from Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue from 3 until 6 for Friday Football Talk Live, our final Friday Football Talk Live of the season. Chiefs Week in the neighborhood of the arts.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Go ahead, put it in your phone, make a point to stop out. Gino and I will be there broadcasting live, doing the show live from Three Heads from 3 until 6 coming up Friday afternoon.
It just hits a little different in December, doesn't it? Maybe it's the holiday season. Maybe
it's the Sprucifer.
Maybe that's it as
maybe
well.
It's real spruce tips brewed into my IPA. Maybe it's that. If that is indeed true, I'm here for it. It does hit different, and it's always good to catch up with everybody, all of our regulars who come out and support the show. We appreciate that. We'll be looking for you on Friday.
All right, quick 30-second story, if I may, here. And I didn't tell you about this story. So, one of our regulars, okay, the Gordon family, they're going to be out. They went to the Nighthawk game the other night, and they have a buddy named Matt, and they changed the goal song. And Matt, I didn't like that. Goes up, now if you see the press box, you ever notice there's another booth where they have the radio, with not the radio booth, but the booth where they spin the tunes and everything. Matt goes up there. Hey! Nobody's answering the door. Hey! Can we help you, sir? Why did you change the goal song? Why? We like Luke Graham. He's over. The guys are just looking at him like, dude, what are you doing here? And then he realized, and then Brittany, who is like, she's like, yeah, we kind of like that song. And they're walking back down. They're like, yeah, that wasn't such a good idea. People like their goal songs, Danger.
I can sympathize. I understand that. You become, but I also am a proponent for keeping it fresh. Like, your goal song needs to capture a vibe, right? An energy and a vibe. And if it's stale, if it's tired, it's like what we were talking with Seth Appert earlier. Like, if your message gets stale, you have to find different ways to kind of freshen it up. In case of,
do you need to know the goal song though? That was the criticism that nobody knew.
They didn't know the goal song.
Well, and that Jukebox Hero is Rochester.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Not saying anything bad about Lou Graham, not saying anything bad about Foreigner or that song. It doesn't hit me as a great goal song.
I thought it was. I thought it was just like, it was one of those songs too when it happened again and would just get under the skin of the opposition.
For me, it reminds me of when the Leafs were using Hall & Oates as their goal song, You Make My Dreams Come True. It just doesn't have that kind of vibe to me that would make you jump out of your seat and really get into it. But that's me, and that's, hey, listen, this is the beauty of music, right? It's subjective, it's art. Everybody interprets it and consumes it in their own way, and it's unique and personal to everybody.
You hope you get to a point where you have a goal song that you would never change it. Like for RIT hockey, like the Eye of the Tiger, like those opening chords.
Yeah.
Goal, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. the Blackhawks have Chelsea Dagger, and like there's going to come a day where they change it, and I'll probably be like, oh, don't change it, man. That's the perfect song because it's lunacy and it's the Madhouse in Madison, and it just fits, and it harkens back to a time when now I can listen to it and be like, yeah, I remember when they used to play this all the time when they were winning Stanley Cups. It doesn't happen anymore.
Well, there was also a time where the Bills realized the Shout song they were playing, they never paid the rights for it. Yeah, and so it went away, and they said, okay, we'll play something else, and people were angry. Yeah. So they figured it out, and then the Shout song, and that will never get changed.
Tage Thompson making his return for the Sabres. Fishing in the dark. Look, I get it. It's the player's choice. It's not a great goal song.
No, it shouldn't be a player's choice. I'm sorry. It should be like, right? I don't quite get that.
Yeah, like you don't need the player to be fired up after they score the goal. They've already scored the goal. You need to get the crowd into the game after you score the goal. So it has to be a song. And there's probably a lot of people that like Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I'm fine with that song. It just doesn't hit me as, oh, that's a good goal song. Maybe that's just me. Again, it's all subjective, right? Like you're talking about fans at the Nighthawks game that were like, yeah, no, come on, what are we doing? It's got to be Lou Graham. It can't be anything else.
Like Matt probably had like one, he was enjoying himself with the new Nighthawk IPA and realized, maybe that's such a good idea to walk into the booth there.
You need to play more Lou Graham. Why? Because he's Italian. That's why.
He's Lou Grammatica.
Yes. Tommy DeVito getting the start again in Week 14 for the New York Giants, Gino.
Well, if the season's lost and Tyrod's not the future, why not give the people what they want? Why not? And it serves a dual purpose. You're tanking anyway, so put out Tommy. Who cares if you win or lose? Let's just have a good time.
Hey, Tommy DeVito. Going to start with Tyrod now designated to return from IR. You could see Taylor maybe backing up DeVito. They take on the Packers. Doubleheader on Monday night coming up here.
I love that. It also kind of brings into the fact that, wait, Tommy DeVito was in Syracuse. How did they not actually do better? Not that Tommy DeVito is any great NFL quarterback, but
missed opportunity.
Like Syracuse ever have a quarterback that you could say would be starting in the NFL again? To me, like Tommy DeVito, he should have been in Rochester. Hey, Orange fans, come on.
Let me tell you, come to an Orange game. Why? Because I'm Italian. That's why. Tommy DeVito, come see me and the Syracuse Orange. Why? Because I'm Italian. That's all you need to know. We'll see you at the Dome. I love it. Missed opportunity. Completely missed that opportunity. Completely missed it.
Missed.
But they're taking advantage of it in New York, and it's fun and it's exciting. What is not fun and exciting is being a New York Jets fan right now. The Tim Boyle era, the Tim Boyle experiment, it is over. The team releasing Tim Boyle.
Yeah, and that report we had right at the tail end of our show last night from Diana Rossini of The Athletic saying that, okay, the Jets want to pivot back to he's the wide receiver, Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson had trepidations about going back in, and automatically the mob, oh, that's terrible.
This is the assassination of Zach Wilson's character, Aaron Rodgers
today. So, and there's been pushback from the Jets, as there should be. Like, if that's true, then you do cut them. Like, hey, go back in. I'm not so sure. Then what are you doing here? Do your job.
And where's that report? I mean, Rossini, where are you hearing that from? Who's your source on that? Are you hearing that from Wilson himself, from somebody in Wilson's camp? Where's that report coming from? Or are you just throwing out there willy-nilly, Wilson doesn't really want to go back in? Says who?
She whiffed on Doug Marone's getting fired this Sunday, and then, oh, no, he's still here. Nope.
They went ahead and signed Brett Rippon off of Seattle's practice squad. So we don't know who's starting for the Jets here coming up in week 14. It could be Zach Wilson. It could be Trevor Siemian. It could be the newly signed Brett Rippon. But if you're interested, Tim Boyle is out there. Oh, speaking of backup quarterbacks as well, back to the Giants, Matt Barkley was waived off the active roster. So that kind of clears the path for Tyrod to return. No Matt Barkley.
Tyrod's your 2.
Yeah. So there's your New York Metropolitan quarterback update between the Giants and the Jets. It makes you kind of appreciate that you have some stability at that position here in Buffalo, knowing what we've been through for a long, long time.
Let's give you your Shohei Ohtani update. And baseball, I think, has not done a good job of trying to put a spotlight, like giving too much power here to Ohtani as representatives. No, you should be feeding people. Who is he talking to? Well, you knew they couldn't keep this stuff secret, right? Dave Roberts admitting that the Dodgers have talked, and they met with Shohei Ohtani. And there's a report out of Toronto that yesterday, down in the Jays training facility down in Florida, there was Shohei Ohtani in Florida talking to the Jays. This is the update from today. Bob Nightingale saying it's not looking good for the Cubs here. They count that out. But Nightingale also saying that the Giants are still in play.
Okay.
So any day, Shohei, when you want to make up your mind here, because once he kind of makes up his mind, I think that's when the other dominoes will happen.
All right. Baseball hot stove continues. We'll continue to watch where the most prized free agent in Major League Baseball history ends up landing and for how much. I think that Shohei in Toronto, man, it just makes a lot of sense if you're Ohtani. It makes a lot of sense. You have massive upside any way you look at it. On the field, off the field, all of it. It'd be fantastic. And how great would it be for us to be just a few hours away from being able to watch probably the greatest baseball player of our generation anytime we want. Can't wait.
It is, but what am I referring to when I say 26%? That's the exchange rate right now.
Well, I don't really care about the exchange rate, Gino. I don't know if I'm Mr. Deep Pockets over here, but if I want to go to Toronto, I'm going to Toronto. No excuses.
All right.
If Shohei's there, I'm going. Let's see. Let's go to some games. All right, we'll keep you updated on where Ohtani may eventually land. That's the latest from Bob Nightingale. Let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, as the NHL has also come out and said, like, hey, where would be the coolest place you could put the NHL draft?
The moon. Moon.
Pretty close. Well, no, but it kind of looks like it in a way. There's your little tease there. Syracuse basketball in action tonight. They got to get this one. They want to be going anywhere this year. Nick Saban. Florida State fans, I give you a little hat tip here on this. Like, if you want to let Alabama head coach Nick Saban know how much you're upset about, would you just pick up the phone and call him? It's apparently what a lot of Florida State fans did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Saban's phone number got out there?
We will explain.
All right. We'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar. Last call before we close up shop at 6 as well, where we utter the most dangerous words in all of sports talk radio. We go to the phones, 585-866-4FAN if you'd like to pull up a stool, 866-4326 to call into the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. You've got a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. So much selection. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, FanDuel.com/Mike, and join me this NFL season on FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every
On the Fan as the Sabres hosting Detroit. Tage Thompson returning the lineup for the first time since November the 17th. He's happy to be back.
Probably just trying to, ease back into it, see how the hand feels, and take it maybe a period at a time, go from there. Shooting feels 100% normal. No issues there.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is under the weather, so it'll be Eric Comrie starting in goal tonight. Devin Levi has been recalled from the Amerks. He'll be backing up. Our coverage tonight here on The Fan will begin at 7:30. Amerks are back home Friday against Charlotte. Syracuse basketball also at the Dome tonight. They're taking on Cornell. The football, the Buffalo Bills practice resumes tomorrow against Kansas City as they get ready for the Chiefs on Sunday. The New York Giants sticking with quarterback Tommy DeVito. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bone-crunching hits, backboard-shattering dunks, bat flips, and hat tricks. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, just to get pucks to the net, and then you can use the back of the net after that, I think. You need first to get pucks and bodies to the net and create offense from there, and then you can kind of use the back of the net more to create offensive zone times and so on. So, yeah.
Sabres forward Isak Rosen,
who cut him some slack here. He's still learning the language of the culture, but
congratulations, kid! You got your cliches down. Pucks to the net. Got to get pucks to the net. Bodies in deep. Yeah, you sound like a veteran. Nice job.
Which game is that not true?
Right.
Like, which football coach would be like, you know what, tonight, if we turn the ball over a few times, it's okay.
Yeah, we'll be all right with that. Yeah, just know your cliches. Study them, commit them to memory. Good job by Rose. It sounded like a veteran there.
Sabres looking to break that 3-game slide tonight. They host Detroit. Patrick Kane, by the way, he got his first practice in on Monday. He's not going to go tonight. He's going to make his debut against San Jose later in the week. He is in Buffalo for what it's worth tonight. Be advised, it's a Hulu game, ESPN Plus. Later start at 7:30.
Sabres money line for me. I'm taking them tonight.
It's time.
Yeah, it feels like a good spot for them with Thompson coming back. Yes, you need this one. Get this one at home tonight. Even though I have a feeling a lot of red sweaters in the barn tonight, but I'm going Sabres money line.
The NHL has announced the site of their upcoming draft.
Okay, so we wanted to. You said where are they? Where would be an unbelievable place for them to host?
It's different. Like it's different. Like what is what's really new and cool in our country right now?
I would love for them to host the NHL draft from the surface of Gary Bettman's prostate. Can we get an NHL draft?
I thought you were going to say like from his garage or something like that. Or...
No, I'm talking his gigantic prostate. Can we do it from the surface of Bettman's prostate?
No, that's not possible. Oh. It's going to be at the Sphere in Las Vegas. You know, that big globe thing?
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's going to be kind of cool. 28th and 29th of June. Hard to wrap your mind around that, right? How far off that is. This is going to be actually the last draft where every team is going to be on site. The 2025 draft will have decision makers remotely, kind of like other leagues here.
Okay. Yeah, everything I've seen about the Sphere looks incredible. I've got some friends that are U2 fans. I use the term friends lightly because I'm not crazy about U2, but I have to admit, like, what I've seen, what they've shown, looks pretty cool.
Danger, let me tell you about 1987 at Silver Stadium on an October evening, all right? I was there with everybody else. You don't get it.
Yeah. Every song. Every song. All the same.
Stevie Van Zandt was there, Los Lobos.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah, an opening for you two. Cornell has not beaten Syracuse since the year 1968, which you and I were not alive for that. Could this be the year? Well, Cornell coming to the Dome at 7-1. When you think Ivy League basketball, you think slow, deliberate, plotting. That's not the style of the Big Red. They like to get quick shots off at 15 seconds per possession. That's one of the fastest clips in the country, so the defense for Syracuse has to be ready tonight. It's a later start at the Dome, 8 p.m. on the ACC network.
Dare I say, feels like a loss. Dare I say, feels like a loss. For the first time since 1968, can we see the Orange fall to Cornell at home? Come on. Can't happen, right?
What do you mean it can't happen?
I mean, I know it can happen, but...
If you lost to Colgate a couple times in the last 2 years. Why
Right,
not
and you got to
Cornell?
pass for that. Now we're going to be extra. We're going to scrutinize even more if you lose to a team that you haven't lost to since 1968.
What in the game on Saturday down in Virginia makes you say, you know what, this team's close?
Yeah. No, nothing.
No, it's like they have one really good player and not much else.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the Florida State fan base, shouldn't laugh at this, they got a hold of Nick Saban's cell phone number, and then they shared it with fellow disgruntled fans. And the Alabama coach estimated he received 250 calls from Florida State supporters who were expressing their views. Says the coach, I don't know how the hell they got my number, but it's out there. Like Nick Saban, just to give you an idea, he is old school. According to the paper down in Alabama, he has email, but he doesn't use it himself. He has somebody else use it for him.
He's an alien.
Yeah, but at least he has a cell phone, but now he might have to change it.
I give him credit for having a cell phone. When you say, his number is out there, I'm like, the phone is ringing in his kitchen. Like, think about how far we've come. You don't see a landline in anybody's home anymore, right? You used to see the phone hanging on the kitchen wall and the
answering
long cord
machine,
or the
yeah.
answering machine, all that stuff, all like gone. Like, if I wheeled any of that out to my kids, they'd be like, "What is that?" They have no idea. So that's what I thought when you said, his number is out there. I'm like, what, his home number? Like, are they invading his privacy?
You grew up in as an only child, Danger. Like, you had no idea. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, my brother's on. Like, you had to share the landline.
Not only did I grow up I had my own line. Like, I had a phone in my room, like my own line, my own number in my room.
Spoiled.
I'm kind of a little bit
spoiled.
Maybe a little bit. I want a little bit of credit because I have been sitting on the phone number of a very, very prominent coach, and we could have been tempted to share. Of course, we would never do that. We would never.
All right, I have no idea where you're going.
I'm not going to tell you who it was. I'll tell you off the air whose number. You know who it is. We talked to this person. We talked to him.
Oh, that's right.
We talked to him once. We did get his cell phone. We talked to him directly. He was wonderful. He was gracious with his time. He was charismatic. He was polite. He was everything.
He said great things about Rochester.
Yep. And
then after we're like, oh my gosh, we have so-and-so's number.
And now you realize, like, this is the guy that is just out for blood on his path of destruction on the way out. Let me just, he's the evil grinning child standing in front of the burning house.
It's like if you called Nick Saban and you got Nick Saban, like, how funny. Well, hello. Like, Coach, I find it offensive that your program got in over.
What are you saying to him in that moment? Your prank call? I mean, are you doing is your refrigerator running bit? What are you saying to Coach Saban if you're a disgruntled Florida State fan other than F you, Saban?
Did I ever tell you my Dan Deerdorf story? Okay.
Uncle Gene has a Dan Deerdorf story, everybody. Gather around.
So, like, I'm in college, and, like, that was ABC's Monday Night Football. It was Al and Dan.
Yeah, and Gifford, Frank Gifford.
Yeah, and so they've had Dan on a promotional tour, and we had him on our college show. It was, like, a really good get. And I had his home number. And then one day, and again, you used to get phone bills, kids. You get a phone bill, and then I look at my phone bill, and I'm like, what is this number in Missouri? I'm like, and
who was calling it?
Well, my buddy Andy decided it was a good idea. And who picks up the phone? And then, hello? And what does my friend Andy do? Yes, hello. May I speak to Mr. Fatass, please? What? Mr. Fatass? Are you Mr. Fatass? Who is this? Hangs up the phone. And poor Dan Deerdorf, rest his soul, but my buddies crank called Dan Deerdorf.
Oh, is this Mr. Fatass? It's me, Saul.
Who is this?
It's me, Saul. I'm just wondering if you knew where my shoes were. I've lost my shoes. I fell down the stairs.
That's awesome. Prank calling was an art form back in the day.
Yeah.
And if you had the means to get to somebody, I mean, radio shows back in the day were built on their ability to prank call celebrities. Costas was notoriously angry if you got Costas.
Yes.
It just, the little man syndrome came out every time he got prank called.
this is before, what was it, Star 68, before you had caller ID, before any of that.
And think about this, too. And I was just reminded of this watching Mad Men. Like, there was a part of a season of Mad Men that centered around Don Draper's infidelity and his wife looking at the phone bill to see what numbers he was dialing, to wonder, like, who is this number? Looking at the phone bill, wondering, should I call this number to see who he's having an affair with, to see who he's talking to? Like, there was no hiding. Like, you didn't know, like, oh, she calls the number and it's actually her psychologist that he was calling. It wasn't anything nefarious, but like, yeah, you'd get that phone bill, you'd see all those numbers, and so you saw Deerdorf's number and your roommate's calling up Mr. Fat Ass. You have to pay. Worth the investment, I would say.
I'm the whole time I'm thinking, okay, there goes my career, and I hadn't even begun yet. College. Buddy's crank calling our guest.
Well, if it wasn't going to be Deerdorf, it would have been Olbermann. One of the two would have derailed you completely.
Olbermann still might. Finally, goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky led Tampa Bay to a 4-0 win over Dallas, and he was a little bit of a slide. And to get more thoughts, let's go to the post-game press conference for Vasilevsky.
Okay. From the end of the game on Saturday to the start of this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't great feeling. Last game, but
what? Hold on a second.
What was the question?
Did I hear somebody cut one in the middle of that interview?
Yeah, that was
last game, but
whoa. You could hear it clear as day.
And then he starts laughing. I can't determine, was that him or was it somebody else? But the room kind of cracks up at that point.
What has happened to us? We have completely devolved. We've gone from being a credible sports show, Gino, to talking about Mr. Fat Ass, prank calling celebrities, and fart jokes. Listen, they expect it out of me. They don't expect it out of you, my friend. This is out of character for you.
This is news. When you get home tonight, this is going to likely cross your feed that the Tampa Bay goaltender, did he fart or not in front of reporters?
Loves it, his reaction. He's lost his train of thought completely. It's like the clip of Sims and Nance in the booth when you know that Sims let one go and Nance, he's trying so hard not to laugh and Nance is so perturbed. He's so angry about it.
Yeah, but it wasn't audible. It was the other kind.
Right.
And you're just clearing out the booth and Nance is like, I'm worried about you.
I'm worried about you. I'm worried about your health. You okay, pal? Yeah, I'm worried about you. Oh, okay. Thank you, Gino. Appreciate that.
See, I made you laugh.
Yeah, that's good. Let's regroup. Come back. It's time for last call at 866-4326 if you want to join us. 585-866-4FAN, and we'll tee you up for tomorrow afternoon in the Sports Bar next on The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for everyone.
Fan, Rochester.
Sabres hockey tonight on the Fan. 7:30, KeyBank. Detroit, the opponent. It's a weird one. This game is an ESPN Plus / Hulu game. Fairly certain it's not on MSG. I think the Knicks take precedence.
I think that Knicks, this is one of those in-season tournament games against the Bucks here. So
that's right.
And I had to take last hour, and just I didn't realize how NBA people love this tournament. And that's good. Anything that can kind of add some excitement here from the outside, I just didn't quite get it. But I'm late to the party. But
I didn't understand it, at the beginning. I'm like, all right, how does this work? And then you realize, oh, it's really just like them playing out their schedule, just rearranging it a little bit. But these games have some weight to them, and they count towards group play, and then the seeding from the group play,
and then you just got this pot of money, like for your top players. Okay, what's $500,000? Well, you want to be a good teammate for the guy at the end of the bench. That's like changing money.
Yeah, and it matters, and you could tell, like when the Celtics lost last night. I don't think anybody expected the Celtics to lose to Indiana to advance, but they lost. They're out, and they're pissed. They weren't happy about it. Like, good. Like, I like that. It matters to the players more than your typical Tuesday night in December would. So they've tried something new. I think it's been fun. It's been exciting. You have just a little bit more interest in the sport at a time when most of us are still fully paying attention to football. I mean, football is still consuming most of our thoughts. But yeah, I'm paying a little bit of attention to what's going on with the in-season tournament. It's been a fun little gimmick here for the NBA.
Yeah, and try different things. I don't want to turn into that guy like I don't like change. Change is not good, you know.
Oh, so this time next year, what will your take be on the expanded college football playoff?
Oh, I hate you.
You know it's going to be epic. You know it's going to be awesome. It's going to be. I mean, think about everything.
When we get there, yes. But everything, the enjoyment of the final weeks or the weekend that you just had,
it's not going to change. It won't change anything. It won't change anything.
Alabama, Georgia doesn't mean anything. Both teams are in. Michigan, Iowa. That would have. I don't think Iowa would have gotten in. Oregon, Washington. Both teams would have been in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then why?
But
for seeding or
yes,
buys?
Your top four get a bye, so that still has some weight. You still want those top four teams to get a bye, and then the games that you have to get to those top four teams. Just all I needed to see was what the bracket would have looked like this year before the final college football playoff committee rankings. And when I saw it, I'm like, good matchup, good matchup, good matchup, so matchup, not a great matchup, but 3 out of the 4. Matchups leading into the semifinals. I'm like, yeah, these are good. These are all good, or I should say, going into the quarterfinals. All really good games. It would have been epic if it was this year. Unfortunately, Florida State has a gripe; they get screwed. And next year, we'll see what it looks like with an expanded field. But I'm telling you, Gino, it's something different. It's something new. It's going to look good, and we get used to it. And the one that is still, for me, a little bit hard to digest and swallow is still baseball. The beginning of the baseball postseason. I think
the idea that Arizona caught fire at the end. I want to see the best teams. I don't want fluky baseball things to happen in the month of October. I want to see the Phillies or the Braves or whoever, the Dodgers certainly, not Arizona.
Yeah, that one I'm still kind of reserving judgment on. I'm not 100% bought in on that one just yet. I mean, ultimately, I thought the World Series was fun. It was entertaining, even though it was two teams that nobody really had going to the World Series in Texas and the Diamondbacks. Tomorrow, 3:25, we'll be joined, as we are every Wednesday afternoon, by the host of BetQL's Send It In. That's our buddy PJ Glasser, Odyssey Sports betting insider calls, presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app, and PJ will give us his week 14 winners in the NFL.
Yeah, can you believe it? We're already there.
We got to get his takes on the college football playoff as well, so we'll do that with PJ tomorrow afternoon, starting at 3:25. Who do we got tonight? Is it Hot Take Hickey? I'm saying it's Hot Take Hickey.
Yeah, if Bart was last night, it's probably Hot Take Hickey.
We're back tomorrow, starting at 3 on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the inside scoop from experts.